You are welcome. So good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday the 17th of December. My name is Councillor Breda Griffin and I am the Chairman of the Council. Welcome to this virtual meeting of South Kesteven District Council that will consider the remaining business of the meeting held on the 26th of November 2020. I would like to begin by welcoming all councillors and officers and all those members of the press and public who are joining our meeting today. As we begin today's proceedings, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the meeting is being recorded. For any councillor who hasn't already done so, I would like to ask that you turn on your cameras now. Please can I also ask you to turn off any telephones or put them onto silent mode, and to remove any possible distractions. Any councillor who wishes to speak should use the chat function and type a comment such as me, speak or next. The chat box should only be used for members of the council requesting to speak, voting during exception votes and requesting technical support. You can also use the chat function to indicate that you would like to raise a point of order or a point of personal explanation. Can I also ask that members indicate through the chat function if they are intending to leave the meeting? No other comments will be noted or considered. When invited to speak, you should turn on your microphone. Please do your best to remember to mute your microphone once you have finished speaking. Should you forget, we will be able to mute it for you. The length of time for speeches remains 5 minutes. You'll be warned when you have 30 seconds left and when your time is up. Wherever we can through this meeting, we will use voting by exception, where councillors be asked to type against or abstain in the chat box. It will be taken that anybody who does not type against or abstain is voting in favour of the proposition. The only occasions we will be using a roll call vote will be if a recorded vote is requested. I will ask the Chief Executive to guide us through the voting procedure that we will use as we work through the agenda. And I'd also like to let you know how I intend to run the meeting. I'll be sticking to the rules of debate as set out in the Constitution, of which I'd like to give you a brief reminder. A member may speak once on substantive motions and once on each amendment that is put. Other than exercising a right to reply at the end of the debate on a substantive motion or amendment, the only time a member may speak a second time is to raise a point of order or a point of personal explanation. Points of order may only relate to an alleged breach of the council procedures, rules or the law. Any councillor wishes to raise a point of order must indicate the rule or law and the way in which they consider it has been broken, using the information from the Constitution. A point of personal explanation may only relate to some material part of an earlier speech made by the councillor, which may appear to have been misunderstood during the course of debate. I will take a firm line on the use of both conventions and the ruling of the chairman will be final. And at this point, I will invite Councillor Callum Cook, the leader, to talk about South Kesteven District and tiers.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. For those members that haven't already heard, sadly, South Kesteven is to remain in Tier 3 following the government's first review of its tier system. We will, of course, continue to provide all the support we can to our residents and businesses at this very challenging time. I know that for many people, this will be disappointing news, not least for those involved in the hospitality industry at what would normally be their busiest time of the year to sustain them into the new year. The latest available figures show that the rate of positive tests in South Kesteven now stands at 182.6 per 100,000 of population for the 7-day period to the 11th of December, only just below the national average of 188.6. It's clear that we must now redouble our efforts to bring this figure down by following government guidance and continuing to adhere to the restrictions. And for those of us in the south of the district, you'll also be aware that Peterborough has also now entered into Tier 3 as well. There have, however, been two positive developments this week. Firstly, the opening of the vaccination centre at the Mears Leisure Centre in Grantham, and secondly, the first appointments at a drive-through mobile testing station at St Martin's Park in Stamford. We should be proud that we as a district are playing an important role in the nationwide effort to roll out the vaccinations and increase in testing. Being able to get a test quickly is critical to the success of the National Test and Trace Service, and residents in both the north and the south of the district now have vital facilities closer to home. With Christmas just over a week away, we know that things will be very different this year. Although the Tier 3 restrictions will be relaxed over the main holiday period, we should heed the advice to be cautious and think hard about the plans we may have for family gatherings. And I know nobody wishes to see an increase of cases after the 27th of December. By following the guidance now and to keep our loved ones safe, I am hopeful that the rates will have reduced by the next review in 14 days' time, where we might then exit Tier 3. But thank you for that, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And I'd just like to say too that there are expectations of the council. It is the season of goodwill, and it's to all, man, woman, child and animal, and not to be accepting of poor behaviour, talking whilst I am, etc. And I'd like to get through this afternoon's council meeting with a pleasant outlook as we can, working together. And please, let's try and work together and not be antagonistic. So, we will now begin to work through our day's agenda. And could I ask Shelley, the Democratic Officer, to confirm the presence of all members in attendance at the meeting? Where a member doesn't respond, she will move on to call the next member. Once the list has been completed, the names of any member from whom no response was received will be recalled. Thank you. If I can ask Shelley to do that for me.
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies for absence from Councillor Mark Whittington, Councillor Jan Hansen, Councillor Lee Steptoe, Councillor Helen Gorrell, Councillor Nick Robbins, Councillor Charmaine Morgan,
hello,
Matthew Lee. I'll now continue with the register of attendance.
Thank you.
no sound,
Councillor Bob Adams.
Present.
Councillor Baxter.
Happy Christmas.
Councillor David Bellamy.
Present.
Harish Bisnowski.
Careful what you say.
Councillor Harish Bisnowski. I'll come back to Councillor Bisnowski. Councillor Pam Bosworth.
Present.
Bob Broughton.
present,
Councillor George Chivers.
present,
Councillor Louise Clack.
Present.
Councillor Helen Cook.
Present.
Councillor John Cottier.
present,
Councillor Helen Crawford.
Present.
Councillor John Dawson.
present,
Bill Dilts.
present,
Councillor Barry Dobson.
present,
Councillor Mike Exton.
present,
Councillor Paul Fellows.
present,
Councillor Breda Griffin.
Present.
Councillor Dave Gill.
Present.
Councillor Gloria Johnson.
Present.
Ms Rosemary Cabry Brown.
Present.
Kelly.
Present. Councillor Kelly.
Councillor Jane Kingman.
Present.
Councillor Philip Knowles.
present,
Councillor Nikki Manterfield.
Present.
Annie Mason.
Present.
Penny Milnes.
Present.
Virginia Moran.
Present.
Councillor Dr Peter Mosley.
Present.
Councillor Robert Reid. Councillor Robert Reid. I'll come back to Councillor Reid. Councillor Susan Sandal.
Present.
Councillor Ian Selby. Councillor Ian Selby.
yes, present,
Jackie Smith.
Present.
Councillor Mrs Judy Smith.
Present.
Councillor Judy Stevens.
Present.
Councillor Adam Stokes.
Present.
Councillor Ian Stokes.
Present.
Councillor Jill Thomas.
Present.
Councillor Rosemary Trollope Bellew.
Present.
Councillor Sarah Trotter.
Present.
Dean Ward.
Present.
Hannah Westropp.
No, she gave her apologies earlier in the week.
Thank you. I'll record that. Councillor Hilary Westropp.
I'm here, yes.
Amanda Wheeler.
Present.
Good. Councillor Jane Wood.
Present.
Councillor Paul Wood.
Present.
Councillor Sue Woolley.
Present.
Councillor Linda Wotton.
Present.
Councillor Ray Wotton.
Present.
Councillor Harish Bisnow Singh.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Robert Reid.
Present.
I believe I've just been informed that we now have Councillor Hanson in attendance. Is that correct?
Yes, present.
Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation.
Shelley,
Yes?
it's Councillor Ray Washington. I am present. The apologies were, or the message was, I may need to leave the meeting early. Not that I wasn't going to be present for its entirety.
Rightio. Okay, I will mark your attendance then. Thank you very much, Councillor.
Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Is that everybody now?
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, okay, so we now go on to item 2, disclosure of interests. I'd like to remind members that a disclosable pecuniary interest is an interest any member holds where they or their spouse or civil partner is likely to receive any financial benefit or disadvantage because of the decision that is being made. For example, this could be as a result of their employment or a dividend they have in respect of an affected business. It also covers any land they hold. Once you've declared an interest, you should leave the meeting, not speak or vote on the debate. Please remain in the virtual lobby if you can, but if you leave the Skype meeting or the technology provides any difficulties, please be assured you will be invited back into the meeting once the agenda item has been concluded. If any member has any interest they may need to disclose, please indicate that in the chat now. We do realise that for the last meeting you did disclose some interest, but things may have changed since the last meeting. So if we could have any disclosable interests now, please. Right, Councillor, ask to speak. Is there anybody? Councillor Washington.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I need to declare interests under both 7A and 7B, the two motions, on two grounds. The first ground is that I'm the owner of residential rental property in the Grantham area, and the second count is that I'm the trustee and beneficiary of my late father's estate, which also has residential rental property in the Grantham area. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. I think this had actually been done before, but thank you very much for disclosing. Oh, sorry. The motion has now been, that motion has now been withdrawn, so fine. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. But if you, during debate, it becomes clear to you that you have a disclosable pecuniary interest, you should indicate in the chat box by typing the word interest. I will call on you to disclose that interest, and then you will be required to leave the virtual meeting for the remainder of that item. Once that item of business is complete, you'll be invited back into the meeting. But now we're going to proceed with the next item of business. So this is agenda item 3, Overview and Scrutiny Committee's Annual Report. We shall now move to the agenda item 8. No, it's not 8, is it? It's agenda item 3. It was 8 of the last meeting, which is the Overview and Scrutiny Committee's Annual Report. I now like to invite the Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, Chairman Councillor Graham Gill, to present his report.
Okay. Councillors, I'm pleased to present the report for the annual review of scrutiny of the last financial year. It's been a challenging year for scrutiny, but we have persevered in spite or because of the technology. I would like to thank all of those that have put everything in place to allow us to persevere. And at the same time, I'd like to thank all the chairmen of all the scrutiny committees, all the deputy chairmen, the democratic support officers, all those who participated in the scrutiny committees, group members and opposition members. I'd like to particularly thank those that read the papers before the meetings. And I'd like to thank those officers and cabinet members in the way they prepared papers and the way with which they engage with scrutiny. One of the things that we agreed as the chair of scrutiny's committees this year was that we would rotate the chair of scrutinies and that it wouldn't automatically be the finance committee chair being the chair of scrutinies. So I'm pleased to I'm grateful for everyone's support in my year as chair of chairs on the scrutiny committee, and I'm pleased to give my full support to Councillor Wootton, who will be taking over the role of chair of chairs and monitoring scrutiny on behalf of everyone over the next year. Finally, I think I should reserve special mention for the scrutiny support officer Zena West, who recently left the organisation, who recently left the council, in her work that she's done with myself and with other scrutiny chairs to help organise and discipline the scrutiny process. And as I say, I look forward to working with other scrutiny chairs in the forthcoming year.
Thank you. I understand that Councillor Wootton will be seconding the proposals.
No, Chairman, yes, happy to second this. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. And now we take it to debate. Anybody wishing to speak? Who's on the... Sorry, it's a bit far away to see. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. As you will have seen in the chat box, I'd like to speak, and at the end of the speech, I'd like to raise a point of order, if I may. I've timed this to 5 minutes, I hope. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Councillor Gill, for the report. I'm pleased to say that we're scrutinising scrutiny for a change, but this report is a bit like what I did on my holidays type of essay, a list of information without any real reflection or self-criticism or identifying areas for improvement. There are some good bits in it, but it's a bit of a curate's egg. And I'm sure that we can all point to bits that we like, but most of it shows up how scrutiny at South Kesteven isn't working. Here are 5 examples. Example number 1, Environment Committee Tree Policy. Paragraph 3.4.2, sorry I can't give you a page number, but within the scrutiny report, paragraph 3.4.2, it says the Environment Committee agreed to the development of a policy relating to tree replanting, with the council playing an increased contributory role. That tree policy still hasn't appeared, and if we are planting trees in large numbers, then we're being very quiet about it. Example number 2, Finance Committee, budget profiling. If you look at paragraph 6.12.4, it says the chair, that will be Councillor Gill, requested a review to establish how effectively budget profiling was being managed by service managers. I don't remember that report being presented or happening. Example number 3, leisure centres. The Council is committed to a leisure transformation strategy, which includes a commitment to the construction of long overdue leisure centres, including a replacement for the Deepings facility. The management of existing leisure centres is one of the most outward-facing parts of the Council. And in February, 2 of the overview scrutiny committees agreed to set up a members panel. That panel has never met, and we have never properly scrutinised the process of either managing leisure centres or managing the transformation programme. Paragraph 6.16.2 says an extension to the contract with One Life would enable sufficient time for feasibility work to be undertaken and development of a procurement strategy. And less than a year later, and Cabinet members have admitted that the One Life contract wasn't actually that good and we should take the service in-house instead. Example number 4, modernising housing services. I draw members' attention to paragraph 7.5 of the report, which says, due to many policies and practices having become outdated and inefficient, a comprehensive review and restructure of the housing service had begun in January 2019. And paragraph 7.5.2 says the housing review should have been completed in 4 or 5 months. That was January 2019. And yet later in this meeting, we're to be told that until very recently, it was just as bad, if not worse, and we have only just started to do anything about it. Paragraph 7.5.1 says the Communities Committee received 2 reports about housing voids in autumn last year, and we still do not have a voids policy. Finally, example number 5, the Bourne Cycle event. At paragraph 4.5.2, we read about how good the Bourne Cycle Festival was. The original intent was to build a cycle fest that would become a sustainable annual event that would draw people to the town of Bourne. The first year was overspent, but the Culture Committee in November 2019 said it was a good idea. Sadly, Councillor Trollope-Bellew didn't agree, and in the very next paragraph, 4.5.3, we read that she was able to unilaterally pull the rug from under it. This wasn't by making a decision, but rather by not making one. And no one can use the call-in procedure to challenge deliberate procrastination. So these are only 5 examples of the scrutiny process not doing its job properly. So turn back with me to paragraph 2.1.1 about the purpose of scrutiny, and you will read, scrutiny should work effectively with the Cabinet and senior management. It doesn't. Scrutiny should be an effective mechanism for the Cabinet to demonstrate public accountability.
1 minute.
It doesn't. And paragraph 2.1.3 says scrutiny should operate with political impartiality. It doesn't. And I could tell you the reasons why. I don't have time. I have less than a minute. And I know that some of you would prefer to pay external consultants for advice. So therefore, Chair, I would like to propose the following point of order. And that is, I would like to propose a motion without notice. This is under 4.10 brackets Roman numeral 4, and that is that the role, structure and performance of the scrutiny committee system should be referred to a suitable independent individual nominated by the LGA, just one moment, nominated by the LGA to review whether or not it is fit for purpose and how it might be improved. And I've just sent that to you as an email, Chair, and also to the monitoring officer. One last thing, Chair, if I may, and that is the leader has often said that he doesn't get involved with the management or workings of the scrutiny process, other than to appoint and make sure the leaders are, the chairs and the vice chairs are appointed and sometimes disappointed. So I would very much hope that he and his cabinet will not try to influence this debate or vote. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Right. Okay. Could I have what is the point of order we got going here?
It is under 4.10 brackets IV, little I, little v, and that is that a matter be referred to. I don't have a copy of the Constitution in front of me, but
right. I think the monitoring officer has got the numbers and the situation.
Yes. Good afternoon, members. Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Baxter is proposing a motion without notice, and it's the Constitution paragraph 4.10(4), which is that the following motions may be moved without notice, and one of those is to refer something to an appropriate body or individual, something that arises out of discussion or debate at the council meeting. This plainly is an agenda item on the council meeting, and we are in debate, and it does therefore arise. So it is a motion without notice that is properly made, but it needs to be seconded and a vote taken on the process. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
And that, right, who's that, please?
Councillor Moran, I'll second that motion.
Right, thank you. Take a vote? No. Debate. Oh, sorry, we've got to debate it. To start the discussion. Was it Councillor Dilks? No. Who, sorry? Right, could have seen counts. Right, okay, I can't read it, so. Councillor Paul Wood.
Oh. Yeah, can I speak, Madam Chairman? Councillor Paul Wood.
Yes, you can speak, Councillor Wood.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, well, I think Councillor Baxter's made some very good and interesting points. Scrutiny is not there to just criticise things. Scrutiny is actually there to achieve things and really help the administration and point out things where things are probably going wrong and advise them and that. I think it's unfortunate the way we've operated scrutiny at SKDC for the last few years. It hasn't always operated in that fashion. Previously, there's been just one scrutiny committee that was chaired by an independent councillor. Now we have several scrutiny committees, and the only problem is it's not actually working very well. And a lot of people I've spoken to have raised this question, indeed, that there are failures in the scrutiny process. And I don't think the failures in the scrutiny process helps anybody. It doesn't help the administration. I say a scrutiny there is to try and help the administration and guide them. There's no point in having a scrutiny process if it doesn't achieve what it's set out to do. And it clearly doesn't. So I think Councillor Baxter's proposal for an independent review of it is what we need to do. We need to get it right. Other councils run a better scrutiny processes than SKDC, and we need to get our scrutiny process back on track. So I would encourage members to be. This isn't a criticism of the administration. This is a criticism of the process that we've set up, and we need to improve it. We're better. South Kesteven District Council are better than the process that we've got at the present. And that's not trying to criticise Councillor Gill, or I know who does an excellent job of it. I have nothing wrong. The report's okay to me, but it does illustrate there are failures in the scrutiny process, core failures that need to be addressed. So I would very much hope that members could support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Councillor Dilks still there? Could I call on Councillor Dilks, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I too would like to thank Councillor Gill for his report. I would also like to support the Councillor Ashley Baxter's motion for an independent review of scrutiny. This council has done that for planning. We're in the process of considering how to improve the planning process as a result of that report. But I do think we now need to do that for scrutiny. I've long thought that, and I think others have too. I'd just say, if I may, this report that we have before us is listed. It actually shows part of the problem, if I might say so. It's listed as a report of the overview and scrutiny committees. But actually, it's not what it says on the tin. It's a report of the chairs of those committees. I note that paragraph 213 says that scrutiny should operate with political impartiality. Ashley Baxter's already noted that. And yet this report, this is a scrutiny report produced by political appointees, all appointed by the leader, of course. The biggest challenge in this council, in my view, is making scrutiny effective. It doesn't work, as the leader of the Independents has just said, and others I'm sure will say. Right now, scrutiny doesn't work in this council. And when we get to if we get to the next item on the agenda, the scandalous reports of how we failed to meet even basic legal requirements as a council, you know, we all
properly next time. Thank you. We will debate that properly next time. You can continue about what we're talking here on the table now.
Yes, thank you. But across the council, members have responded to those reports, highlighting the lack of ability to drill down to get the right information, i.e. to scrutinise. Effective scrutiny is a very rare thing in this council. And I have to say, as long as those who control scrutiny is entirely in the gift of one person, and that's not a criticism of that one person, it will remain so. That one person says who gets a share in the order of £150,000 in special responsibility allowances, which he can remove if he so wishes. I believe that our most recent council meetings and these scandalous reports we're about to consider next tell us in blazing floodlights that there is a serious challenge, a serious change is needed in not just in scrutiny, but in the culture of the way this council works and operates. We need far more openness and, in my view, frankly, more honesty in the way that we do things. I'll be happy to support the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, members, for the discussion. I'd firstly like to thank Councillor Graham Gill for his annual report, and also the respective overview and scrutiny committees for the work that they have undertaken this year. And let's be honest. We've had particular challenges this year. From moving committees from face to 100% virtual in a matter of weeks, and maintaining the overview and scrutiny work programme over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic and 2 lockdowns can only be commended. And I'm sure myself and the Cabinet look forward to working with all the scrutiny committees in the year ahead. And I think I would like to also make the point, and I know a number of comments has been made in relation to the work that has been completed. A lot of our staff have moved on to critical services, and in certain other councils, they've not even had scrutiny committees. So for us to maintain a suite of meetings as well as agendas, our staff have gone above and beyond where they needed to be during this pandemic. However, and I'm sure I'll knock Ashley off his feet now. I am happy to support, and I know this normally happens every council term, we do have a review into the committees and how they are working. I know a number of my own members have raised with me about how the scrutiny committees work. I have always been a fan of scrutiny. I was part of the introduction of the overview and scrutiny committees to this council from the former policy development groups and the one scrutiny committee, which I still do not believe worked as well as it could do. That's not to say that scrutiny can always be improved. Obviously, I think we all wish Dina well in her new post in Nottingham, and I'm sure we'll look forward to welcoming a new scrutiny officer when we go out to adverts. So for me, involving the LGA in this, and I work with the LGA on a number of things, including the Improvement and Innovation Board. So I'll be very happy to invite the LGA in to review our scrutiny function and work alongside the Constitution Committee to then put forward some recommendations to us as members of the Council in the future. So to my own group members, and this hasn't been discussed before, I'd be happy to support this proposal to involve the LGA and to have an open discussion about scrutiny.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Councillor Gill?
Well, just to add a few comments really to what Councillor Cook said there. I think I welcome as well Councillor Ashley Baxter's comment there that we can do more. I do think scrutiny has improved this year, and I think we have moved forward, but there's still work to be done. It's something that I note regularly in finance, and we are continuing to push push the officers and the cabinet on getting more information in a better format for increased transparency for this council. So yes, I would also welcome and support an independent review. I think we've got nothing to hide. I think that there are some interesting examples that Councillor Baxter has focused on there in the report. That the one example that relates to the committee that I chair, the Finance Committee, I believe that's an action that we would take as part of the budgeting round that we are in at the moment. So I don't think that's necessarily a criticism. It's just a piece of work that's not been completed yet. But nevertheless, as I say, we're always striving to improve scrutiny, and if there are independent requests and requirements and recommendations, then yes, I think we should support that.
Okay. Right. Could I ask Councillor Whittington to speak, please? Mark was.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I think it's important to keep scrutiny under regular review. In the recent past, there's been a review into scrutiny at the County Council. That actually was an internal working group of councillors, but we did a representation from all of the political parties, and we actually sort of produced our own sort of recommendations, which were agreed by all of the different groups. We based a lot of our stuff around the recommendation, all sorts of recommendations of best practice that the Centre for Public Scrutiny have. And actually, the Centre for Public Scrutiny also do quite a number of sort of online. Well, they used to do in pre-COVID days. They actually used to do a lot of face-to-face training. They now do a lot of online training, face-to-face. So online for councillors in all aspects of scrutiny. You know how to ask questions, how to research, how to delve. Specialist sessions on financial scrutiny, because I have to say there are times that, to a certain extent, scrutiny is probably only as good as the skills of the people actually on the committees, and I sometimes think that actually that we do need potentially as well, and I hope that will be part of the review, is how we look to actually raise the skill level and the skill base of members, to give members the confidence, when they are faced with a very, very large report, especially one that potentially may have a lot of financial information in, the confidence and the skills to actually go in there and actually to sort out and to sift the questions they want to ask, so they can probe in a fairly deep way. There's been some comments about the political nature of scrutiny. I mean, I'm vice chairman of the Finance Committee, but I'm also on other scrutiny committees as well. I see no conflict between being a backbencher of the ruling group and actually adopting a robust approach to scrutiny. I certainly hope that on all the committees I'm on, even the one where I'm vice chairman, I've always adopted a very, very robust approach to scrutiny, because I think that's the essential role of the backbencher. And we do need to say, and we do need to maintain our independence, and to say, our role as backbenchers is to scrutinise. It is to ask difficult questions. That's our role. And I slightly resent the implication that if you're a member of the sort of political ruling group, that in some way you are unable to exercise their role, because I actually do find that slightly offensive. I really do. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Could I call on Councillor Ray Washington to speak, please?
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Madam Chairman. I've been on the council since 2007. When I first joined, we had policy development groups which were not scrutiny panels at all. And we did have a scrutiny panel, but it didn't really, for me, add value to the council. We now have scrutiny panels, and as I'm now chairman of the chair of chairs, the first thing I did was to call on the leader of the council to create a overview and scrutiny panel, which I'm currently Vice Chairman of the Lincolnshire County Council Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which is chaired by an independent member, which I think adds good value and robust scrutiny to any process. The scrutiny committees at the moment do champion the people, they do add value, they are a critical friend to the Cabinet member, but any member of the Council can bring any topic to that committee for debate. So I disagree with some of the comments made by Councillor Dilks and Councillor Baxter, but I do support this motion.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Knowles, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My thought originally when we started this debate was maintaining the meetings and thinking that was good enough. Was not good enough, because it's the effectiveness of those meetings that matters. And I've found scrutiny in my limited time I've been on it. I've only been on it, of course, since here last May, and it has been difficult during the lockdown. I find these sort of meetings extremely trying and testing rather than face-to-face meetings. But I found them much like a curate's egg. Some elements have been very interesting and informative and useful and worthwhile, and yet some elements have been ineffective, and some concerns, serious concerns, have been drawn up. And I commend the way Councillor Geel chairs the meeting, and indeed Councillor Whittingham is a challenge when he's in a vice chair position. But even so, some of the concerns that were raised seem to just go up a blind alley and disappear, and nothing came of some of those challenges over the years. And I would welcome the proposal that's made. And can I also, while I'm doing this, thank the leader and Councillor Geel himself and other speakers for the support they've given to this motion. It is important that scrutiny is looked at as being one of the checks on things that happen, and making sure. It is clear that in some aspects all the scrutiny committees between them have missed something, and obviously we're going to discuss that next, but there have been things missed, so I welcome the response from the leader and from other councillors, and I support the motion. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to say I really do support pretty much everything actually said and Phil. And just briefly, just come back on Mark Whittington, just briefly. Mark, I really respect your work on the committees that we've worked on together. And I've heard you state a few times that you're disappointed with the implication that you have to be an opposition member to scrutinise effectively. And
Councillor Clark, sorry to interrupt. Could you put your camera on, please?
Sorry, I'm just having some issues with my internet, if that's okay. If I could just get through this point and then I'll have another go, if that's okay. And sorry, where was I? Sorry, with Mark. And I think the difficulty is that part of scrutiny isn't just necessarily suggesting that that there's some kind of issue with the case in hand. It's also bringing different viewpoints. That's very much a part of scrutiny, and so be that different viewpoints across the political divide, which is obviously why we have a political balance rule in our committees, and also in terms of age demographic, in terms of life experience and what have you. And so I think one of the biggest issues that we've had as a council personally is pretty much exactly what Ashley said, in terms of just the complete dominance of a single individual and within the Conservative administration. And actually that's just the opposite of scrutiny. We need a multiplicity of voices, we need a multiplicity of opinions to bring to any decision that we make. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we go, okay, we're going to vote in favour of an opposition member, etc., etc. It just means that the scrutiny process has been fulfilled because those voices have had the opportunity to be put forward. And then obviously, because we have a register in terms of minutes, etc., that can be held as a public account, that basically that decision has been effectively scrutinised. And personally, I won't go into it here because this is separate issue in some respects. But I do have significant disappointment currently with Karen Bradford, CEO, with Shaheen, monitoring officer, and Graham Deal in terms of
Stop. We do not take people talk like that. Thank you very much indeed. We have already said about that.
I'm so sorry. I was about to finish. No, see if I may. I was about to finish my point in terms of scrutiny and in terms of my ability as a member to scrutinise. And actually, no, I think it's really important that I try to.
Thank you. We are talking about what's in front of us, not about people.
But the people relate directly.
Not talking about people. Thank you very much.
Right, this is outrageous. These individuals are directly related to the process of scrutiny and therefore directly relevant to what I'm saying.
Councillor Wotton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm having a problem putting my video on. Here we go. Yes, thank you. I really support Councillor Baxter's motion, and I'm really impressed. He could quote it, and I believe in scrutiny.
Careful.
I believe in scrutiny. I've been in the fortunate position to chair a special scrutiny committee at the county council, and we take politics out of it. We work together as a team, and I think that's something that should be brought forward in our meetings. And I totally agree with my colleague Councillor Ray Washington, and I've presented something to the overview and scrutiny board this morning, and it's quite an experience, I can tell you, but it's true scrutiny. Firmly believe in scrutiny, always have done, always will do, and I will support this. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to say I'm really pleased that so many people have recognised the intelligence of Ashley Baxter, and I realise that many councillors are, like Mark Whittington, are really valuable to this council, and they do probe and they do scrutinise what goes on. I would like the point that Ray Wotton made not to be lost in all this speak. What he did say was that in a different council that he is in, there is an independent person in charge of scrutiny. And Ray, I think that's a point well made, and perhaps if everybody had a feeling that all people were involved, there would be less controversial comments made over time. So thank you, Ray Wotton.
Thank you. Is that it? Yes? Okay. So can we then move to the vote for Shaheen, the monitoring officer?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just wanted to clarify the voting. You'll remember that at your previous meeting, the scheduled meeting, Council had agreed, passed a motion to take recorded votes on all matters. I take the view that this is a new meeting, although the business has carried over. This is a freshly called meeting, and so that recorded vote resolution doesn't apply to this meeting. Plainly, if members want a recorded vote or their individual votes recording, they can ask for that. I see one member has already said, please no recorded votes. So, Madam Chairman, that is the position on votes. We are back to normal voting. But in terms of normal voting, we have just debated the amendment put forward by Councillor Baxter, and so the voting is on that amendment. And for those members who don't have that in writing in front of them, the amendment, I'll just call it up and read it for you so everybody knows what you're voting on. It's an amendment that there is a referral to a suitable independent individual nominated by the LGA to review whether or not scrutiny is fit for purpose and how it might be reviewed. So that is the amendment that you are voting on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So we're going to the vote. So can we go to the vote now, and can we do it by exception, please? So all those people who are for, we will not vote. All those who are against or abstain, will put that in their chat box. So we're only putting in the chat box those people who are abstaining or against. Thank you. If we can start now. Yes. Right, so it was a unanimous vote. So that is about the amendment. Do we have any more speakers? No. Okay, so we've got that, so then that is carried. Thank you. We vote on the substantive. Yes. We only have one speech. So, okay, so can we vote again and do the same thing again, please? Is that...
Madam Chairman, that's unanimous again.
Right, okay.
In support.
Thank you. So that's been carried then. Thank you. Right. So we'll now go on to item 4. Right, we now have a report from the Cabinet Member for Housing and Planning, Councillor Robert Reid, regarding housing compliance in Riverside. Councillor Reid, please present your report.
Madam Chairman, I wonder if I might raise a point of order. I wish to propose a suspension of standing orders for this item. I'm happy to give my reasons.
Can I have Monitoring Officer reply, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm not sure it's a point of order if it's the Councillor Dilks has sent through proposed amendments. I think Councillor Dilks also suggests in an email that I've only just seen, so I'm reading it as we're in the meeting, some changes to standing orders. Councillor Dilks, if that is a point of order, you'll have to explain how that is a point of order and why it doesn't arise when it comes to voting, please.
Madam Chairman, I'm guided by you, and thank you, Shaheen. I wish to propose a suspension of standing orders for this item. Am I permitted to do that? I can give my, I'd then like to give my reasons if I am permitted to make that proposal.
Through you, Madam Chairman, yes, if Councillor Dilks wants to highlight what it is he wants to do, and then we can take it at the appropriate point in the debate of this motion.
Thank you. First of all, before I do that, may I welcome Councillor Cook's agreement to my request that the Riverside report and the Housing Compliance report are so serious that they should be considered by the full council, not just by a few councillors on the committee or governance committees. But I know that the one agenda item that's before us today encompasses both these two separate and major reports to the council, and indeed a third equally important item as well, i.e. future plans. Given the constraints of standing orders, that gives individual councillors very little time to address the issues in the serious way that they deserve. And I am sure we can have a debate on the same collaborative way that we've just had the previous debate. In addition, following conversations with Councillor Reid yesterday, which I welcome, I'm aware that it's proposed that during this item we have the opportunity to ask, or we may have the opportunity to ask questions about progress on the two reports, particularly to an officer, Mr. Chris, forgive me,
Stratford.
Mr. Stratford, thank you. In all fairness and in the best interests of this council, I would ask for your support, councillors, to suspend standing orders for this item only, and I would like to register my request to speak in the debate. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chairman, if I can come in. Councillor Dilks, which standing orders are you proposing are suspended to enable what to happen?
Length of speeches, and I'm very happy to present my, having spoken to Councillor Reid yesterday, I'm very happy to present my, rather than having to present an amendment and then go through a debate on that amendment and a vote, and then me present a second amendment and go through the same progress, and then a third amendment. I'm happy, if the council's happy to suspend standing orders, that we that you would take all those, you know, my three amendments together, and perhaps others might have some similar ones. If they are, you know, get the benefit of a seconder, hopefully from across the chamber, if I might say, on an individual basis, I'm suggesting they could then be taken as encompassed in one debate, rather than having to go through, frankly, what we went through at the last council meeting, 2 hours of voting and debating on three separate issues. I think if we did it this way, it would, I'm sure we can get some collaboration, and in the interest of the council, we can move on and save a lot of time.
Chair, I think Councillor Dilks might be referring to a 4.10, which is to suspend a relevant clause, and he might be wishing to suspend relevant clauses of 4.11 relating to the length, content and number of speeches, as we usually do during the budget debate each year, to allow for a great big long speech by whoever's presenting the budget. Is that what you meant, Phil?
Yes, Councillor Baxter. Exactly, no, that's it. It was in a similar manner that we do the budget. Thank you.
One, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. That's very helpful. So you have before you a proposal to suspend standing orders to allow for increased length of speech, and to suspend the rules which would normally mean that one amendment could only be taken at a time. I know Councillor Dilks has proposed 3 written amendments, and there may be others. So the proposal that you're asked to consider is to suspend standing orders to allow a much more free-ranging debate, and for all amendments to be tabled at the same time, so that the debate can be a bit more free-flowing. If I've captured that correctly, I see Councillor Dilks on my screen nodding.
Thank you for that, Shaheen, yes.
So that will need seconding, and then...
Madam Chairman, it has been proposed, it has been seconded. I'm assuming the rules of debate in my constitution is 4.11.5 is seeking 4.11.4 about the length of time, and 4.11.5, or I think we just need clarity. Are you seeking for the whole of rules of debate of 4.11 to be suspended? Because I know Councillor Baxter came in on that, but Councillor Dilks, this is your proposal, so I think you just need to be clear on if you are proposing that all the rules of debate on 4.11 are suspended.
I'm happy to be guided. Thank you, Chief Executive. You know, I just, as I think Shaheen has captured what I'm trying to say, is to get a free-flowing debate where we don't have to start with every amendment that is put forward.
Madam Chairman, if the rules of debate are suspended, you do still need, if there's any proposed amendment, a proposer and a seconder, and each amendment would still need to go.
Yes, but I don't know if you can hear me, Karen. But would that, surely we could take, you know, could I present 3, you know, present 3 amendments separately to get a seconder, to see if they benefit from a seconder, and then should they get a seconder, for all of those amendments to be considered in one overall debate. Is that possible?
Thank you, Councillor Dilks. Thank you, Councillor Dilks. I've seen the three amendments. You've made 3 amendments. If you're proposing 3 amendments and those 3 amendments got seconded, then all 3 would be taken together. If you want them taken separately, then each one would have to have a vote against each one with a proposer and a seconder, as laid out in the constitution that you have now.
Okay, well, in the interest of moving on, I'm happy to present them all in one go, if that's helpful to the council.
Thank you. What we're proposing now, though, is a suspension. It's not about the amendments to what you're proposing forward. We're now on the suspension of the rules of debate. So we're on 4.11. So I am taking from what we're saying, from what the monitoring officer said. This is around the rules of debate. On 4.11, you're seeking a suspension. It's been proposed by yourself, Councillor Dilks, seconded by Councillor Philip Knowles, and therefore, Chairman, I would suggest that now is put to the vote.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're voting now.
By exception, yeah?
Madam Chairman, it's voting by exception. So
yes.
If members are in support of this, the suspension of rules of debate, then they stay quiet. If not, it's against or abstention.
Oh dear.
I can't seem to get the chat box to take my vote.
Councillor Smith, are you for or against?
Against.
Thank you.
Councillor Dawson, can I register the same, because I keep wiping it off? I'm against as well.
Councillor Dawson, we can actually see your vote in the chat function.
No, that's good. I couldn't see it. Sorry. My apologies.
That's okay. The Democratic Services Officer Shelley is just adding those up for now to just confirm the numbers on that vote for the suspension of rules of debate.
Chairman, I believe there are 33 votes against. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, so if I can recommend that vote actually falls, so the rules of debate stay in place for this item, and therefore it would be for Councillor Robert Reid now to present the report. Can I please remind members, please, not to make comments in the chat box? It's for voting and to request to speak, please.
Councillor Reid.
I've got it.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm sorry, I'm working on a temporary device because mine has caused problems, so I apologise for that. Before presenting the report to you, and indeed being the proposer to the 6 recommendations, I hope, Chairman, you'll just allow me to make a short statement about the Riverside this week, because we have had 2 breakdown incidents. I have visited there many times myself on every single day. We're always sorry when a breakdown happens. It happens, unfortunately, to systems on occasion, but it's good to report that it is now working properly. So moving to the report, I wish to talk to the report. The journey to full council has been that I've made members' presentations, rural and communities presentation, and of course report to governance and audit. And I've used the opportunity to expand on the journey by reporting as time has gone on. I would have been reporting on the 26th of November, should we have got to this item then, that the improvement plan's latest position. What I've been keen to do is actually now to demonstrate an updated position. So as you can see the high level overview of tasks and the work programme of the housing team. Members will see that item 4 is regarding renewing the overall affordable housing development programme required to ensure more efficient development of the HRA resources. This item, which I was going to report last time, but I've now been able to succeed it, was originally a red, amber, green rating of red, but this is already changed to amber. Members will also see included in this is a revised 3-year rolling housing development programme, which has already been discussed, as I've mentioned, on the journey through rural OSC, governance and audit, and of course here now today. And here we are. We have moved on since the 26th of November. And the improvement plan is which we get better at, if I may say so. The tabulation, its monitoring is becoming more easy to read, and it forms the basis for me to be able to have on the rural OSC committee meetings as a standard agenda item, and of course it also will make easy reference at governance and audit. I want to assure all members that we are reviewing the tracker and improvement plan, and that we will be, as I've said, reporting if it's quarterly or periodically to OSC. Additionally, along this journey and the presentation, the Chief Executive and I have been given 2 briefings to our housing staff, so as they know what we're on with. We've sent our message of support to our staff, and of course a message of performance management implementation, which has been much needed, and to improve and to ensure the improvement in its many functions of our housing service, and most importantly tenants in our homes. Recommendation 4, I would just like to remind members that we are in the regulator's interpretation now, and the conditions and stipulations that we will have to be adhered to, that they will be by their timeline. So whereby which I saw there was an amendment that has fallen that would have been put forward by Councillor Dilks for 12 months, there is perhaps possibly the answer as to why we wouldn't be able to do that, because it wouldn't be our jurisdiction. I'd like to confirm the contact with the regulator that was last held on Friday the 11th of December, which confirmed that no further detail was required by Council and that a meeting should be expected around the middle of January 2021 to discuss the recommendations likely to be made across the Council's compliance challenges. Members will be fully updated once any contact and information around the regulator's intentions are known. I am proposing the 6 recommendations to Council. I am eagerly listening to the debate that will take place, Madam Chairman, and I shall use the debating material within my right to sum up at the end. So with that, Chairman, I would like to ask you to open debate. Thank you.
Right, and I understand Councillor Wotton is to second the proposals.
Yes, Chairman, happy to second that, but also reserve my right to speak under Article 4, Section 4.11.3. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Well done, right place, right time. Okay, could I ask Councillor Dilks to start the debate, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Most of us, hopefully all of us, were rightly angry when we saw the shocking housing non-compliance report that exposed years of failure and revealed that this council, to which we're all elected, was not even meeting its basic legal responsibilities to do proper safety checks that we'd prosecute a private landlord of a single dwelling if that was happening. Failing to do proper gas checks, electric checks, Legionella checks, asbestos checks, and even 3 years on from Grenville, first fire safety checks. As I said about private landlord, had just one tenant and treated his tenant in such a poor way, let alone 6,000, we'd prosecute him in the courts. But it got worse. When us backbenchers were finally allowed to see the Riverside report half a year after it was submitted, my emotions were worse than anger. Who amongst us did not feel absolute shame that we are part of a council that, despite our solemn promises at election times, we've let down, all of us, we've let down some of the most vulnerable and frail elderly tenants that we're supposed to be caring for. And, you know, whilst we put out a press release when the Riverside report came to the light of day, saying, and I quote, these problems have all been fully resolved, we only have to look at what's happened in the last weekend to see that is not clearly true. I got even angrier when I was contacted by a young mother with her baby who took a tenancy just before last Christmas, but was left with months with no proper heating due to a faulty boiler that she was told should have been replaced before she ever moved in, but she was warned not to complain, otherwise she might be given somewhere even worse. But my blood boiled when I was contacted by a gentleman previously employed to do maintenance work on some of our council properties. He asked why any councillor should be surprised at the scandalous reports. He felt that the council had turned its back on this mounting scandal for years and listed a disturbing catalogue, horrendous stories of shoddy, frankly criminal work. For example, how asbestos safety declarations were frequently falsified, and how he could take me to a house locally where he'd been instructed by his boss to ignore safety precautions and use a sledgehammer to rip out asbestos lining a disused chimney stack. Truly frightening. Madam Chairman, these official reports may just be the tip of one horrendous iceberg. Like most of us across this chamber, however, I care about the reputation of this council on which we're all privileged to serve. I also care about the 6,000 tenants. So how do we move forward? How do we build trust and confidence, as we must, firstly and most importantly with our tenants, but also how do we build respect between councillors across different groups and with our officers? First, I welcome the plan that Councillor Reid has updated us on today, and the measures already announced. but I don't believe they go far enough. And after conversations yesterday with Councillor Reid, I believe I hope we can find some common ground and a more collaborative way forward. For example, I accept, like a giant tanker, any council needs time to change direction, but I was horrified that the initial report to Housing Compliance Report was that we have a plan for the council, we've got all the tick boxes in place, but it'll take us up to 3 years to reach full legal compliance. 3 years is simply not good enough, and our 6,000 tenants deserve better. So I wish to propose an amendment to the recommendations by adding the following, Madam Chairman. I did send earlier an email to the effect. And so my first amendment is, in response to the Housing Compliance Report, this council resolves to provide whatever resources prove necessary to achieve full compliance with all legal requirements within 12 months. I don't know if anyone would like to second that.
Can I come back at that point, Chairman?
I think we need to see if there's a seconder first, Robert.
Yes, that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, I'll second it, Councillor Paul Wood.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, I did say in my opening remarks that, and it doesn't seem to quite registered properly, that now we have put our affairs voluntarily in the hands of the regulator, we will be under the regulator's jurisdiction as to how and when we come out of these, and how in fact they accept the results that we have given and given us a green light for them. So I understand the expedience, I understand the good merit, but I'm sorry, I can't support it because technically it's beyond our control to actually deliver it.
Madam Chairman, can I speak on the amendment?
Yes.
I'll start if I think that's a yes. Frankly, I hear what Robert says, but we didn't have a choice but to report ourselves to the regulator. And I cannot believe that if this council was to say, we have the resources to achieve this within 12 months, I cannot believe that the regulator is going to turn around and say, no, you can't do that, you must do it over 3 years. So the money is there, Madam Chairman. It's already been provided by the tenants that we've let down. I remind you that this council expects to make a surplus of more than £5.6 million in renting our properties out during the current year. Let's, for goodness sake, use some of that to rebuild their confidence in us as their landlord. When these scandalous reports hit the headlines a few weeks ago, members, frankly the Conservatives, had an absolute gall to put out a press release saying that the safety of our tenants has always been our top priority. Anyone reading the reports of how we've let so many of our tenants down could be forgiven for thinking that these words were empty. Now I do, well, then we saw the headlines on the national TV and newspapers telling us that there's the very same people, the Cabinet, have decided it's okay to spend up to £100,000 of public money on a party to launch a statue. What I'd say is we need to rethink our priorities here.
No,
Sorry,
I think that's it. I think that's it now. And I will ask the Chief Executive to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If I can just clarify a couple of points there from what Councillor Dilks has just said. So these are points of clarification from myself. We did have a choice if to refer ourselves or not to the social housing regulator. Myself, with the support of the Cabinet and the leader of the council, thought it was the right thing to do to report ourselves to make sure that we are transparent in the findings of the audit report and the Riverside report, and of course the outstanding health and safety executive report that was still awaiting. Staff have already been redeployed into a housing task team to you know, to ensure that we deliver our requirements, and certainly around compliancy as soon as possible. But as Councillor Reid has actually said, once you do refer yourself to the social housing regulator, you are not in control or influence around when you come out of intervention. They do not just do intervention just to ensuring tasks are completed. Their intervention goes on for monitoring and to ensure that new policies and practices are embedded in that authority or with that housing, with that social housing association. So Councillor Reid is correct is in the fact that we aren't in control of the timing that we're in intervention. What we are in controlling is redeploying resources, which we've already done, utilising frameworks to get pieces of work undertaken as soon as possible, and to make sure that new policies are developed, embedded, and we will be monitored against those. Thank you, Chairman.
But Madam Chairman, I understand what the Chief's saying, but
just
what
excuse
were the
me, you can come back later. I want to let somebody else have a turn. Right, Councillor Ashley Baxter.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't realise that I'd registered to speak.
Paul Wood, isn't it, next?
I'll happily give you 5 minutes if you want, but it's not really my turn.
I thought it was me, actually, Ashley.
It is.
Right.
We often get confused, Paul.
Well, that's the way I'd got it round. You were after Councillor Dilks, but right, okay. So we'll go to Councillor Paul Wood then.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to support what Councillor Dilks has said, but also Councillor Robert Reid. I'd like to thank Councillor Robert Reid. He's obviously took the bull by the horns on this problem and getting to grips with it. So there's no criticism of what Councillor Reid's done. He's doing a great job getting to task with it. He's going down there. He's seeing what's necessary, and that's great. I think what Councillor Dilks wants to achieve and what I want to achieve is, if possible, can we speed it up? And I think that's why Councillor Dilks has suggested 12 months to do it in, and I support that. I'm a little bit confused about what the Chief Exec said and what Councillor Reid has said. It seems to be some restrictions on our ability to get cracking with it, which I find a little bit disturbing, actually. But I still think we ought to try and target something to do it within this 12 months, even if it means putting a slight amendment to Councillor Dilks' proposition that it's 12 months, provided the regulators allows us to do it. But I can't honestly see that somebody would want to stop us doing and getting cracking with it and doing it. And 12 months seems a very reasonable time to actually make it compliant. So I can't actually see the problem with it unless I'm missing something. So if I could have that explained a bit further, please. But I certainly don't understand it, and I can't see the problem with putting 12 months and we want to make it compliant.
Are you coming back?
Thank you.
Great.
Back or?
I think Chris Stratford is going to.
Right, thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Give us a point of information on that. Thank you.
Right.
I hope.
Stratford to speak.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I hope I can help a little bit further. When the regulator gets involved with a local authority around compliance issues, it is very, very unusual to see a local authority emerge out of compliance notice period, which is initially for 12 months, within that 12-month period, unless the compliance matter that the local authority is challenged with is relatively light or focused in a particular single item. What we have at South Kesteven, however, is a fairly broad selection of items which are non-compliant at the moment, and what we have to wait for is the first stage of the regulator's piece of work, now that they've received all the information from us. Now, what will emerge out of that first piece of work is the notice itself, and that will probably be available for us to understand and see at the end of January. That notice, in terms of its scope and nature, will run, as I say, for an initial 12 months, but the regulator will take a view about the time that is likely to be necessary to comply fully with that notice. as I say, in all of the local authorities and RP organisations that certainly I am aware of or have been involved with in terms of the compliance process, it is almost impossible to get out of that regulatory process within a 12-month period. The reason for that is not only are you obviously trying to move from a non-compliant position to a compliant position, which in itself may be relatively, and I say maybe relatively simple, but it is then demonstrating that that can be maintained in the way that the Chief Executive has already indicated by proper policy and proper strategies that then need to be developed and wrapped around that move from non-compliance to compliance. And then the regulator taking a view as to whether or not those new policies and strategies are enough to ensure that they can remove the compliance notice at a given point in time. But 12 months, in my personal view, knowing what I know about previous examples, is not achievable in terms of South Kesteven. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Wotton, would you like to speak at the moment? No?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. If the debate has finished on this, it's been an horrendous time for residents in Riverside, and
Can I just say there are two more people who would like to speak, but I didn't know whether you wanted to come in before the very end of it. Do you want to wait till the end of the debate?
I will, Chairman, wait till the end.
Right, okay. Thank you. Councillor Amanda Wheeler, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I mean, I feel very sorry for the individuals and families who've had to put up with such a poor service. I feel really angry that we've not done the best that we could have done for them. And I feel guilty for the part that I've played by not being on top of scrutiny of this issue. 3 years seems an unbearably long time for a family to be living in unsuitable and substandard accommodation. If 12 months is too short a time, could we not suggest 18 months? I mean, what is feasible? There must be something that we can do slightly quicker. Thank you.
Could I speak to Councillor Judy Stevens?
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. Yes, I just wanted to say that actually Chris Stratford's really said what I was going to say. But as we've now put this in which we should have done, and I'm really pleased that we have done, and we are moving forward. So that's a positive thing in a very negative scenario. I understand that, but given that we've done that, I think now we need to leave it to the regulator to act on behalf of this council in the best possible way without putting further restrictions on that, because it could be that some of these things could be done sooner rather than later within the year. So we made that move, we've put it to a regulator. I think now that is where we leave it, rather than try to put our own parameters. We've had that opportunity and we've obviously failed. We've now asked a regulator. I think we leave it to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask Chris Stratford to answer, please?
Yeah. Again, just to try and be helpful, when we get the notice from the regulator, we will enter into a dialogue with the regulator about the specific issues of non-compliance. Until we get that notice and the scope and nature of that notice, then we don't fully understand the regulator's interpretation of our position. Now, once we get that, what we will do is sit down with the regulator and confirm our plans and process to move through that regulation notice in a logical and sensible way. And as we do that, what will emerge is a view from the regulator about how long that is likely to take. And we will do our best to comply at least with the regulator's expectations, clearly. But if we can progress more quickly to the satisfaction of the regulator during that period of time, then of course we will do that. The other thing to just bear in mind is that this is a partnership. if you like, between South Kesteven now and the regulator, and indeed its tenants, in terms of how we proceed and how successful we are in getting through the regulatory notice period. And I would hope that, as there's already a very, very significant commitment from members and from the top team of the local authority, that we would be able to satisfy the regulator within the shortest time possible, but within the confines of making sure that the regulator feels that we've done everything, not only to comply, but, as I say, then to sustain that compliance into the future. It will become clearer once the dialogue starts, and as part of the progress of updating members, that time frame will also become clearer to members.
Thank you. Councillor Biswas Singh.
I think Councillor Baxter was before me, Madam Chairman.
No. Right, would you like to speak, please?
Yes, please, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say that I welcome and fully support the proposal for the housing compliance report. But what I would like to say is, after the completions of the regulator's schedules of work to his satisfactions, I would like to propose that we put plans in place. I would like to see a regular planned housing inspections by our housing services and a scheduled planned repairs to bring our stocks, our SKDC housing stock, to a decent home standard. We have some very old housing stocks, and we have got some of them that really need repairs. Quite a lot of elderly and frail people do live in them, and we need to keep them in a good stock, because these our tenants doesn't quite racing until something goes drastically wrong, and that is brought to our attention. So I would like to have like a plan scheduled on an annual basis, so we get like a rolling repair to bring things into homes, into a decent home standard, updated and refurbished. That's what I would like to say, but I fully welcome the report.
Thank you. Councillor Hilary Worthstrop? No? Oh, sorry. Oh, my lord. Councillor Baxter, I'm so sorry. I'm rushing you through.
Yeah, that's no problem. Thank you very much. I wanted to clarify, are we talking about an amendment now, or are we talking about a substantive?
We're talking about the amendment.
Okay, in that case, sorry, I'll give way. I'd like to speak when the amendment's been dealt with and we move back onto the substantive, please.
I was right then. Councillor Hilary Worthstrop, please.
No, just for clarification, if you've reported yourself to the regulator, is it for the whole housing stock? Because 12 months, it sounds a very short amount of time to do 6,000 homes.
Councillor, Councillor. Oh, it's going to.
Yep, if I can very quickly, it's all of the stock that you own is subject to the notice and reporting of the regulator. Correct. So yes.
Thank you.
Right, so I think there's nobody else? No. Right, we'll finish with question and debate. Yes. So can I call Councillor Ray Washington, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And are we debating the substantive motion?
Amendment.
Is that correct?
It's the amendment that we're voting on.
No, I wish to speak on the substantive motion, which I seconded. Thank you.
Right, okay. So now we move to the vote then. And could you read out what we're voting on, please?
Yes, Madam Chairman, you're voting on the amendment proposed by Councillor Dilk, seconded by Councillor Wood, which reads, in response to the Housing Compliance Report, this Council resolves to provide whatever resources prove necessary to achieve full compliance with all legal requirements within 12 months.
Okay.
Just a point of information, Madam Chairman. I know we're about to vote on this, and do excuse me, but the amendment we're putting before us, we can't physically do. So is it actually even possible? Because as much as I would love us to be fully compliant within 12 months, it's not actually possible. So we're voting on something that we can't even do.
I have repeated it several times. I can do no more.
Madam Chairman, then, sorry.
Sadly, I'll have to vote against because we physically cannot do this.
Madam Chairman, just on whether it's a properly brought amendment, there's nothing in our constitution to say that it isn't. It fulfills the criteria in the constitution, but you've heard, members will have heard the debate on it, and whether it's possible to achieve or not may influence the way you vote on it. But it is properly brought as an amendment, and so, Madam Chairman, it's ready for the vote.
Of course, it's possible to achieve it.
Right, so we do it with, again, voting against or abstain in the chat box, or again. Yes, against or abstain.
Madam Chairman, may I make a remark?
Councillor Lexton.
It's, you know, could you do it the other way around? It's a lot easier for people to vote for or against. There's a lot more people probably vote against the amendment. It'd be better to vote for than against.
I don't think you can presume how people are going to vote, Mike.
Right.
All right.
We've already started, haven't we?
Yes.
We've already started doing the against
Right,
or
okay.
abstain. So we'll think about that one for the next time. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, if I can ask the Democratic Services Officer now just to add up the voting, please, and then we'll be able to make an announcement. Thank you.
Chairman, I've got 34 against and 2 abstentions, I believe. Thank you.
So,
Shelley, could you just confirm? So we've got 34 against, 2 abstentions, and how many for? Does that give us out of? Are we still got 49 members on the virtual meeting?
We have, since I last counted, Councillor Selby and Councillor Rosemary Cavery-Brown have left the meeting. So
that takes us to 47.
Yes, that's correct.
So, Madam Chair, that's 34 against, 2 abstentions, 10 for. So, therefore, the proposed amendment actually falls. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Thank you. So,
now you go back to the substantive motion for debate, unless there's any further amendments.
Right. And further amendment.
Madam Chairman, it's now Councillor Dilks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. With the best will in the world, the measures outlined in response to the report so far leave too much in the hands of an already very busy cabinet member. Although I do, as I say, I do have welcomed what's in that report so far. I've listened to various councillors reacting particularly to the Riverside report, expressing deep frustration, saying there's no formal mechanism for ordinary elected members to delve deeply into what's going on. I listened particularly to Councillor Jackie Smith, who I believe is one of the ward councillors representing Riverside, and she said she'd visited several times and asked questions of officers, but felt she'd been fobbed off with less than frank and full answers on more than one occasion. I have spoken, as you know, with Councillor Reid yesterday, and whilst I accept my exact wording may be capable of tweaking or amendment, I hope councillors will agree that there is merit in the consideration of this second amendment, which reads as follows. And it would be an addition to the 6 points that Councillor Reid is moving. And it is that this council resolves to urgently consider setting up a housing, compliance and complaints committee to focus directly on achieving and maintaining legal compliance, allowing elected members to monitor complaints relating to housing and scrutinising the council's role as a landlord, and further that consideration is given to how best to involve elected members inspecting properties prior to the start of new tenancies, and that a report is brought to the next council committee in this regard in January. Thank you. I don't know if there's a seconder for that. Thank you.
Yeah, and do we have a seconder?
I'll second that, Councillor Moran.
I'll second it. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So if we'd like to go into debate, please. To the vote with, Councillor Adams, is it?
It's Councillor Anna Kelly. Madam Chairman.
Sorry, Councillor Anna Kelly. I'll get it right in a minute, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I just say it's really important here that we are aware of the public perception of us as a district council. People don't believe they have a say in what happens, and I can only see positive relationship between the people who are our tenants and us as councillors coming out of this. So I would support Councillor Dilks' idea here. Thank you, and I hope others will too. Thank you.
So we've done that. Anybody else? Anybody else? Councillor Knowles, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think I am going ahead. Right. I see that Councillor Robert Reid wishes to speak, and I was going to ask for his, was this sort of committee or this sort of scrutiny look at things like this with public involvement, was that part of his plans? I wanted to hear from him. I believe he's next to speak, so I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, well, I will be speaking against this particular motion, but not just because I'm against it. It's because I actually have a mechanism that I wish to propose in summing up. And my proposal would be that we have a working group, and the working group I propose is because of the following reasons. So in planning, I'm proud to be a team player, and we're talking about housing. and I'm one of the members. And for our way forward, we have a chairman, a vice chairman, and we have a department. We have a head of management, and we have policy, and we have an executive support assistant. So fortnightly, we do a checks and balance, and we cross-reference as have we got things right with the team. In housing, and this is really what Councillor Phil Knowles is probably wanting to hear, it's a bit lonely. We have 30 sheltered schemes, we have 6,150 council houses in all. A measurable performance managed and the managed estate is now asked. And do you know, there is more being asked here today than I have heard anyone with the housing portfolio in the last 6 years I've been on SKDC. We have vacant posts, senior ones. Look what they've left behind. I'm fortunate to have found 2 interims, very professional, to help us, and I have a chief executive that shares the red light that's shining on housing. I have a leader who knows our housing and is the current tasks to tackle, and he cares for me. The sort of scenarios I have is I have boiler houses to visit, yes, 30 in sheltered schemes, and their digital key codes too. Community centres that are closed, interrupted refurbishment schemes, and social and mental considerations too. Yes, I'm out with the 3 area officers and their supervisors. Talking to the residents that live within them, many of them for many years. Compliance criteria very much at the heart of conversation and consideration today. Fire risk assessments, gas, electric, water, Legionellas and asbestos. We have compliance weekly meetings, the 4 of us, the chief executive, the leader, Chris Stratford and myself, whereby which we check and monitor the speed of progress. So I hope that addresses some early concerns. By the way, we could perhaps speed things up. I can assure you every effort is made to putting things right as quickly as we can. The crucial point is with the regulator is that we can report what we've done, and I think maybe we're even on a tinge of his approval on some things already, but we have to wait till he's actually satisfied in moving forward. Grounds maintenance, tidying up schemes, new contracts, rodent pest contracts, endorsing our newest tenancy agreements with our tenants, the housing register demands, repairs backlogs with COVID restrictions, a workforce to build, a workforce to have confidence in, and we need to get that all into one operation. There's the voids to worry about, major voids, the criteria of how they're actually dealt with, budgets, and that they're fit for purpose, and we have the stock condition report much needed to actually focus. I'm not going to get through all of this within the 30 seconds, so I am going to say that I feel that I am moving towards the reasons for why a working group would be, and it needs to be across the whole of the county, which I will continue to formulate in summing up. Thank you very much, and that's why at this point I will not be supporting this amendment. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Baxter?
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Reid has probably just listed the reasons why it would be a good idea to have a housing scrutiny committee. We used to have a split between rural and communities scrutiny committee, and we put them together, which saved a bit of everybody's time, a bit of everybody's money, I guess. But clearly, for the reasons that Robert Reid has just outlined, the lack of a voids policy, the lack of a tenancy allocation policy, and together with other issues like the fact that we have only built something like 18 small one-bedroom properties in the last 3 years, when we have a target of building 100 per year, We're not performing on housing. And even aside from what this report sadly tells us, we are not performing on housing. And part of the reason for that is that we don't have proper effective scrutiny, as we all agreed earlier on. And I meant to say, by the way, many thanks to all of you for supporting the proposals on scrutiny, and especially Councillor Cook and Councillor Gill. I really appreciate that. But if we're serious about scrutiny, then housing needs to be separated out. Not just during this particular episode, but more generally. We need to be cracking on with dealing with the housing problems and also being proactive in building better houses and installing renewable energy and better energy systems on existing houses. We've got loads. And the difference between a scrutiny group and a working party, I hope you can guess what I'm going to say. The difference is that one is in the public domain and one is not.
Oh, it isn't.
I beg your pardon?
No, I don't agree.
You don't agree that a working party is not in the public domain? Because every working party I think...
It is in the... I agree, it is in the public domain, exactly. Yes, I do agree with that. Sorry, I misheard you. Apologise.
No, I was saying a working group, a task and finish group, is not in the public domain. A scrutiny committee is in the public domain. And I bang on about this all the time because people, including the residents of Riverside and the residents that have contacted each of us about the issues, they should have a right to listen to what we are saying about their housing. We should be open, transparent and accountable. That's why we need a housing scrutiny committee, not just in the short term, but in the long term.
Yeah.
Okay, have we got any more speakers? No? Okay. Is it, can we go to the vote then? Yes. So could you read out what we're voting on?
Madam Chairman.
Madam Chairman, did you want me to come in, or I think there's...
Yes, please.
Yeah. You are voting on the amendment before you, which is to establish a Housing Compliance and Complaints Committee to focus directly on achieving and maintaining legal compliance and allowing elected members to monitor complaints relating to housing and scrutinising the council's role as landlord. And further, that consideration is given to how best to involve elected members to inspect properties prior to the start of new tenancies, and that a report on those matters is brought to the next January meeting. That is the content of the amendment. That is an addition to the 6 matters that are already as part of proposed as part of the paper before you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And I think we will vote this time, as was suggested, that if we just do the now I've forgotten which way round I'm going. For and against in the chat box, please.
Madam Chairman, shall I just help you here? I think what you're trying to do, because of the debate previously, we have got an exception systems, and you've got people already started voting. So I think, again, this time, if you are for the amendment, you don't vote. Then other to that, you abstain or it's against, and then Shelley will add that up at the end. You can see that the voting has already commenced. So if we are to change it, then we'd have to change it prior to calling of the vote. Okay,
yes,
Madam Chairman.
thank you. I was trying to get it around the right way.
Councillor Baxter, would you not please make comments like that while we're in the middle of a formal vote, please? Thank you.
I am unable to vote. The chat box doesn't allow me in.
Can we take your vote then, please? Can we take your vote? We can add it then.
Thank you. Against.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, if I can now ask the Democratic Services Officer, Shelley, to add those votes up, and then we'll be able to confirm the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I've counted 32 against in the chat function. And sorry, did another councillor also cast a vote?
Yes, against.
There was Councillor George Chivers against also. So that's 33, is that, Shelley?
Thank you, Chairman. I believe there's also 2 abstentions as well. I've had just confirmed to me.
And we out of 47 still.
Yes, at last count there were 47 members, yes.
Madam Chairman, that's 33 against, 2 abstentions and 12 for, so therefore the amendment falls. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think your next amendment in the chat box, Chairman, is from proposed by Councillor Reid.
Councillor Reid?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much, Chairman. In response to cracking on, there is an opportunity here that I would like to make an amendment. It is, I was going to bring it forward, but it will be expedient if I do it now. And my amendment call is for the allocation of £780,000 for the stock condition report that is much spoken about. And so I look for a seconder for my stock condition report of expedience now. Thank you very much.
I'm very happy to second, Madam Chairman, and reserve the right to speak later in the debate.
So have we got any councillors wishing to speak? No? Councillor Baxter? Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. My video's gone off. Right. £780,000 on the spur of the moment. Can I ask Councillor Reid why this wasn't in the original report? For reasons that I'll mention later, he has known about this since at least September. He's had a chance to get his ducks in a row. Why has he suddenly sprung? Sorry, am I?
No, you're quite welcome to ask the question, and it is a monetary situation. I'm going to ask Richard Wiles to actually help me in why I put the request forward now. Thank you very much, Ashley. Councillor Ashley Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The reason it's been brought forward this afternoon is it is part of the budget proposals that are being considered for 21-22 financial year. However, the opportunity has arisen through the procurement framework to expedite that work at a earlier pace than previously predicted. So, as Councillor Rees says, there's an opportunity now to place that contract within this financial year, which obviously brings forward the timescales for that comprehensive stock condition survey work to be undertaken. In the absence of agreeing it today would mean that the procurement work couldn't start until Council had agreed the budgets on the 1st of March, which obviously is another 3 months away. So it was an opportunity to expedite some of the essential works that have been debated earlier in this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I get that, but what's happened in the last 10 days to make us realise that that is the correct amount? And I mean, why was there nothing in this report to say that some money was needed, a budget was needed? Surely we would have known that a budget was needed on the 18th of November.
Sorry if I'm going to repeat myself, but as I say, in the budget proposals that have been worked on by Cabinet since September, the proposal to put the money within the budget for 21-22 has been identified and was going forward as a proposal. However, in the background, because the procurement work has already started, there is an opportunity to begin the actual contract within this financial year. So, as I say, the opportunity has been taken to bring forward that work and start it sooner rather than wait until Council had considered the matter at the budget meeting, which, as you know, isn't held until March 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, anybody else wishing to speak?
Madam Chairman, I reserve the right to speak, but as there's no further speakers, I've nothing further to add, and I'm sure this will be a unanimous vote, I'm sure.
Right. Well, I think I need to bring in Councillor Wotton. No, to sum up? Okay, fine. So we take it to Shaheen, which who's going to tell us?
So, Madam Chairman, you are voting on Councillor Robert Reid's amendment, seconded by Councillor Cook, and that is to bring forward £780,000 for the stock survey report work. And that is, as I understand it, an addition to the recommendations that you already have before you in the substantive report.
Thank you. So if we can take this to the vote now then, thank you. And we'll do it, I'd written it down, exactly the same as we've just been doing. So against and abstain go into the box.
Are we all going in the chat box now or not? No, we won't. No.
Madam Chairman, if that's gone to the vote and there is nobody against, therefore the amendment as proposed by Councillor Robert Reid, seconded by Councillor Cook, actually stands, and therefore the figure of £780,000 is brought forward into this year's budget, so work can commence on the housing stock survey earlier than we thought we could potentially commence because of the framework contract that we're able to let. Thank you.
Okay. So this is all done now.
Madam Chairman, I think Councillor Dilts had a further amendment as per his email. I don't know if that Councillor Dilts wants to propose that amendment now before we go back to the substantive motion of the report.
Thank you, Chief Executive. My third amendment relates to the work of Philip Gadd, a local resident in Grantham. The official Riverside report before us shows that Mr. Gadd spent 2 years lobbying his local councillors, his MP and anyone else who would listen to him before he finally came to address the full council 2 years ago about the problems at Riverside. But he was told at that time, and it's in the minutes, he was told basically, don't worry yourself, we all know about the problem, we're on top of it. And he was told, quotes, we've got our best people working on it. That was 2 years ago. And sadly, another year went by, a false start, empty promises by this council. And following an expose in the Journal just over a year ago, I tabled a motion calling for a Riverside inquiry. Before it could be heard, Mr. Gadd himself came back to the full council and called for the same. And thankfully, and I pay tribute to Councillor Cook for agreeing to that inquiry. But without Mr. Gadd's determination and tireless work, He was even working this last weekend, and the problems are not sorted, as Councillor Reid has alluded to. There were problems, people having to lump buckets of hot water upstairs last weekend. It's still not sorted. But without his determination, Mr. Gadd, the residents of Riverside, I believe, would still be no nearer a solution to their problems than they were 4 years ago. We should honour Mr. Gadd. I'll not suggest that we put a statue up to him, but maybe in some more appropriate way we should at least say sorry. And so my amendment is an addition to the 6 points, or is it 7 now? I can't remember. But to add to the points on the substantive, that this council recognises that it owes a debt of gratitude to Mr. Philip Gadd for his determined and tireless work on behalf of residents of Riverside Grantham. The council further agrees to make a suitable apology to Mr. Gadd for its failure to respond in an appropriate and timely fashion to the concerns he repeatedly raised over 4 years. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Could I ask Chris Stratford to respond, please?
A seconder, Madam Chairman. It's got to be a seconded.
Please, for the proposal from Phil Dilks. Councillor Phil Dilks.
Councillor Moran.
Councillor Moran, was that? Yes. Thank you. Right, and now can I ask Chris Stratford to respond? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Why Mr. Stratford? Why an officer, Mr. Chairman? Chairman, sorry.
Been asked to deal with Mr. Stratford.
It's a bit unusual, that's all.
It's for point of information, if I may butt in.
Thank you, Robert.
Yep.
We can't hear you, Chief.
Sorry, my microphone bit was up. So it was a point of information just to assist you with all members with some clarification on the situation with the Riverside. Thank you.
Yeah, just briefly, just to confirm, it is correct to say there was some further disruption over the last few days, particularly. However, what I just want to make the point about is that all of the issues relating to the heating and hot water have now been fully, and I repeat, fully resolved down at Riverside. And I went down there this morning to check the situation. There are no further issues being raised about the heating and hot water for the second day. Today, the only complaint I've had is that the hot water and heating, from a heating perspective at least, is too hot. So they've had to open the windows, but everything is operational.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chris.
And could I have Councillor Ray Washington speak, please?
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Madam Chairman. Just get my video on. Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Phil Gadd was, I spoke to Phil Gadd and his brother at Riverside, his brother quite recently really, and had a long debate with him. And he, in the end, went to shake my hand to say he was pleased with the work that we have done. You know, we as councillors, myself and Jackie Smith, have been involved with Riverside over the past 4 years, and that's been noted in the report by Julie Pickin. Our names are mentioned. Now, Phil Dilks mentions about a iceberg, Riverside being an iceberg, but that iceberg, Phil, has been melted because the radiators down Riverside are red hot, and the tenants that I spoke to are happy with the work that we've carried out. And whilst I'm speaking, I'd like to place on record my thanks for Chris Stratford and the Cabinet member Robert Reid and the team down there for all their hard work getting this sorted out, and most importantly our new Chief Executive Karen Bradford, who effectively took this council, put it into special measures and replaced the old management team with a new one, and we've now got things done. And we put this behind us.
Sorry, Ray. Sorry. Point of order, Madam Chairman. Is Mr. Wotton speaking to the amendment because we've not voted on it? We seem to be speaking to the general motion.
No, I'm speaking on the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're muted, Ray.
I've now finished, thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
Chairman, may I just say a few words? I'm unable to get into the speak box.
Yes. Go ahead.
I'd just like to. Sorry?
Oh, carry on.
Did you say? Yep. I'd just like to support Ray Washington. We have worked hard on it between us, and I think I walk past and speak to people almost every day along Riverside. So we are trying as much as we can to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And it has been going on for a long time, but I'm glad now that we're really going to town on it and getting it sorted out. And I thank Ray very much for supporting me, and I hope he's valued my support for him as well.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Could we have Councillor Robert Reid?
Thank you very much, Chairman. As much as I have sympathy and understanding for Mr. Gadd and his concern for the residents of the Riverside, and indeed his brother David and Kath that live there, I have had dialogue with Mr. Gadd also, and I have been having that dialogue with him and all the Riverside tenants since I took over the portfolio in February. And with this particular problem, as I mentioned at the start of the introduction to this item on today's agenda, I did actually state the situation of the Riverside heating. He stated to me, and quite rightly so, in block capital letters, "Get it sorted." And to be fair, that's absolutely reasonable and fair to expect. We have sorted it. We have compensation in place for paying for for extra expenses for electricity over the previous week, and I don't really I don't support the motion that is of gratitude to Mr. Gadd. I have listened, like the motion put forward by Councillor Phil Dilks. I have listened to previous portfolio holders saying they were sorry in the past. I made it perfectly clear that I wasn't going to do that. I was going to get it sorted. And I have said on many occasions, shame and blame will not move things on forward. So for those reasons, with the best sentiments taken out of perhaps why the motion was put forward, I shall be not supporting it as it is put. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. We're not shamed. I don't think the amendment is shaming or blaming anyone. It is naming someone who has pulled their finger out and made an effort and contributed to democratically through the right processes to try and sort out an issue for residents, which we all want to do as councillors. As it happens, he's not a councillor. I don't think it would hurt so much to give him a little bit of credit for the amount of hours that he has put in, because he has gone beyond the call of duty for an ordinary resident, not just because he's got a brother there, but on behalf of all of the residents. And really, would it hurt so much to say thank you to somebody for getting involved? As for Councillor Wotton's comments about having spoken to one of the Gadd brothers and suggesting that they are happy with the service and the commitment and the results shown by the council over the last 3 years, I'm not going to believe that until I hear it from the horse's mouth. I do not think that any of the residents in Riverside would say thank you very much for all the hard work you've done over the last 3 years, the last 3 weeks maybe, but the last 3 years have just been a catalogue of failure.
Right, thank you. Got any more speakers? Councillor Paul Wood.
Yeah, thank you again, Madam Speaker. Yeah, I would
I would like to say thank you personally to Phil Gadd. I was on the council when he first brought these issues up years ago. He made quite a good speech about it. He has persistently gone on about it, and I think the council does owe Phil Gadd a gratitude really for how he's persisted with it and done it. That's not to criticise anything that's been done recently. Councillor Reid's doing a great job as I see it, but Phil Gadd was originally brought it up. He went on about it, he alerted the council to it, and I think we all acknowledge that the council have let the residents of the flats down really. So I think to actually say thank you to Phil Gadd is a good thing that the council ought to do. So I very much support it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Anybody else? Right, can we go to the vote, please? Would you like to read what we're voting on?
Yes, Madam Chairman. The amendment is that of Councillor Dilks, as seconded by Councillor Moran, and that is that the Council recognises that it owes a debt of gratitude to Mr Phil Gadd for his determined and tireless work on behalf of the residents of Riverside, and further to make an apology to Mr Gadd for its failure to respond in an appropriate and timely fashion for the concerns he's raised over the last 4 years. That is what you're voting on. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And we're putting, if you're against or if you're abstaining, into the chat box. Against or abstaining in the chat box. Madam Chairman, I'll ask Shelley to the Democratic Services Office just to add those up, but I am aware in the chat function that we've had a number of members request for under 4.13.5 of the Constitution, right to require their individual vote to be recorded, and I think I've got Councillor Anna Kelly, Councillor Baxter, Councillor Dilks, as requesting their vote, but we will keep a copy of the conversation. So if I've missed anybody, apologies, but I've got through with the right to require individual votes to be recorded as 4.13.5 of the Constitution. And if Shelley can just confirm once she's added them up.
Excuse me, Chief Executive, has my vote been counted? Because on my screen it's saying it hasn't gone through. But
it certainly has come through, Councillor Helen Crawford. Yes,
Councillor Crawford. Thank you very much for confirming.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, I've also had more requests from Councillor Penny Mills, Councillor Amanda Wheeler and Councillor Louise Clack for recording. Councillor Virginia Moran, Councillor Paul Wood.
Chief Exec, have you got mine?
I've got that you are. Would you like a individual vote to be recorded?
Record for
okay. Okay, thank you. Madam Chairman, we're just waiting for the Democratic Service Officer just to count those up.
Yes, fine.
Chairman, we have 27 votes against and 7 abstentions. At last count in the meeting, there were a total of 47 members. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, so we've got 27 against, 7 abstentions. That will make it 13-4. Therefore, the amendment as proposed actually falls. So we now go, unless we have any further amendments to the paper, we would go back to the substantive vote.
Right, thank you. And I think so. Councillor Cook.
Have I got the right to finish summing up on the? Yes.
Yes. Right. I was asking Councillor Cook first, and then I was going back.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, obviously on that vote, it was lost, but I know at previous occasions at the full council meetings where Mr. Gadd has been to the meeting, I have thanked him in the meeting for raising the issues down at the Riverside during those meetings. And, you know, understandably, there have been questions from many of us about both Riverside and also the housing compliancy audit. And obviously we've received an update on these reports and the direct action that we are taking as a council. And I fully understand the level of concern relating to these reports, and I feel the same level of disappointment and dismay that you all feel. The reports make incredibly difficult reading, and like you, I have found it particularly hard to understand how such symptomatic failings were allowed to happen over such a long time. And lessons have and will continue to be learned, but crucially the right thing to do now is to focus on addressing these failings and putting them right. As Councillor Reid has mentioned, as well as Mr. Stratford, you know, we are taking direct action in response to the findings and working close with the social housing regulator. And you'll have heard an update on the progress that has already been made, and going forward we will continue to provide updates regular and in-depth so everybody understands what is happening. Importantly, you'll also hear about the steps we are taking to support our tenants through this process. So Councillor Reid, the Chief Executive, and I raised concerns and earlier in the year commissioned our auditors in July 2020. And when we received the findings of the audit report, this led to the appointment of Chris Stratford, who had extensive experience of housing and had previously with the social housing regulator. Response and improvement plans have started to be developed. We have established weekly strategic meetings, and staff have been seconded into a housing response team from a number of areas across the council. We've also undertook a wider review of housing, and this has identified issues relating to the housing stock condition survey, the outstanding voids policy, the stay put policy is now being drafted, and the voids policy is to be presented at the next Rural and Communities Scrutiny Committee. And as we all know in the Constitution, that committee is the Scrutiny Committee for Housing. And as councillors, we are all here to serve our communities, and the priority of the council is and will always be our residents and our tenants. And as I have said before, I sincerely apologise for how they have been let down. And going forward, clear and open communication with tenants will be at the heart of this approach. This is something that has been incredibly important to myself, the Chief Exec, the Cabinet Member, Councillor Reid, and all of the Cabinet. I'm sure that's echoed across the Council. We've already written to over 6,000 households and set up a dedicated team to respond to questions and support tenants throughout this process. And around 60 tenants have contacted that helpline, and we will continue to proactively engage with our tenants and ensure they are fully informed about the actions we are taking. We are, of course, as it has already been mentioned, in regular contact with the social housing regulator. And if we are to be found to be non-compliant, then obviously there will be a period of intervention by them. And afterwards, there will then be a period of that monitoring to ensure that we have embedded those new policies and procedures to ensure significant improvements have been made, but more importantly, are also maintained. And in respect to the sheltered accommodation at the Riverside, I know Councillor Reid has been personally committed to improving the services at Riverside alongside the local ward members of Councillors Ray Washington and Councillor Jackie Smith. Members, you will have already received a full copy of the independent consultants report, and that was circulated by our monitoring officer to group leaders. And I think finally, I just wanted to say, as leader of the council, I want to give you my utmost reassurance that we are determined to resolve these issues and deliver the housing service that our tenants deserve. A housing service that we can all be proud of, and I look forward to working with the housing working group that Robert's mentioned, and with the Rural and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee in monitoring and in making those improvements that we vastly need to make for the lives of our residents. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And at this point, I'll ask Councillor Wharton if he would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've got no further requests to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So can I go to Councillor Reid, please? Right, okay, sorry, I was trying to push things on a little bit. Councillor Bisnell Singh, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I wanted to ask a question to put a questions to Councillor Reid. I very much welcome his proposal with regards to setting up a housing working group. I wonder if he's going to put a proposal for it today, that this group be set up. Thank you.
Point of information, Madam Chairman. Councillor Bisnath Singh, we've already voted on it and supported it.
Councillor Baxter?
Sorry, I missed it. Thank you.
Councillor Baxter?
Thank you, Chair. I listened to your entreaties at the start of the meeting about getting on with each other, and when we had the first item unanimously agreed, I was astonished, and that was great. But sadly now all the peace on earth and goodwill to men has gone out of the window. As I mentioned earlier, during that debate, we've known about both these situations for years, both meaning the Riverside debacle and also the housing department shambles. Mr. Gadd has been bringing Riverside issues for years, as we've been told, and he's just been met with apologies, promises and platitudes. And as my children well know, sorry means I won't do it again. So we need to really make that apology matter by making sure that none of this happens again. The council knew about the failures of the housing department, and this is shown in the minutes of the Communities Committee of January 2019 and the Audit Committee of roughly the same time. I would like to hear from the previous portfolio holder for housing about why this wasn't dealt with much earlier, and I would invite Councillor Dobson to comment. After all, the council's non-compliance was literally putting residents at risk, lives at risk, and the same person that allowed these failures on his watch is now responsible for running our leisure centres and the leisure transformation programme, among other things. Paragraph 5.13.4 in this report says it all. Should be on the front page. Residents felt let down, not cared about and lied to. I want to draw attention to the timing of the Riverside report. The report was commissioned last December at the request of the council and was completed and delivered to SKDC in March. Incidentally, it was agreed that members would be involved in compiling the report, but they weren't. At the Rural Communities Committee at the end of November, Councillor Robert Reid said in a public meeting that he hadn't known about the report until September. I've been told by sources inside and outside the council that Councillor Reid was well aware of the report a month earlier, by the 8th of August. I'm saying that even though Councillor Reid said to a public meeting that he didn't know about the report until September, he definitely knew about it in early August. There's a word for that. Councillor Reid could have and should have reported the problem to the September meeting of the Rural and Communities Committee, 2 months before he actually did, but he chose not to. And I suspect that this was in order that the council could manage the news by getting its excuses ready.
1 minute.
And then getting its excuses ready and then releasing the news in a managed way, first to the Conservative group, then to a secret briefing of other members, and finally to the Rural Communities Committee and to this council. The report says that residents felt let down, not cared about and lied to. Well, Chair, so do I.
Thank you. Right, can we go back to Councillor Reid? And sum up?
Yes, well, a point of information before summing up, where we were concerned, there was a list of questions asked by Councillor Ashley Baxter, about one we knew about the Julie Picton independent report from the Riverside, and indeed that was also after the Chief Executive. And yes, I did know about it on the 9th of August, but what I obviously didn't make clear, if I didn't, is the fact that the presenter and the author of the report, Julie Picton, she couldn't come in September, so I couldn't get it any closer into discussion until November, and I hope that point is clearly made. Moving on, I will be happy to sum up in that it is, I thank the leader for his closing remarks, and in so doing, his reminding us of the current mechanism that scrutiny of housing goes through rural and communities. I have said about that previously, and of course we will be reporting to governance and audit, that I've also said. I'd like to take the opportunity in thanking you members for their support in the stock condition report and being able to crack on with that. And I'd also like to move forward with my proposal for the working group. The working group, because the housing portfolio, you know, from the deepings right up to Claypole, the various facets of housing development, sheltered housing, and the provision, you know, it is an awful lot of work, and to ask for support within a working group, it would be desirable if we had members come forward that were actually from different parts of the district, and they could join with me in being the eyes and the ears, and we could do it something along the working group could be portrayed, something along another working group that I actually am involved in county. We have a housing, health and care delivery group. It's chaired with enthusiasm, and it's supported by genuinely interested county-wide district members in their recommendations. And indeed we could do exactly the same with the district this way, and I would really welcome it, because it would actually give me support, and it would give above all, it would be the support for our housing for our residents. It would also allow the support of our new housing delivery board that looks at the rollout of housing, and it could be involved in that. And on a good news story, we have now been able to have an agreement and an approval with Homes England for grant funding for a partnership. So this will endorse our housing, but our housing rollout. But we need to make sure that it's in the right areas, and we need to make sure that we address a balanced view forward. So I would like to sum up by saying to go to the vote on the 6 recommendations, and I would like for noting, because it wouldn't be a constitutional requirement if I'm right, Chairman, for a working group, but that we can construct that. And in the essence of getting on with what we need to do, I would like to see if we could have within the mechanism an agreement that that could be formed before the next council meeting, and rather use it to help in reporting back, rather than coming to the next council meeting and needing to approve some format of its existence. Thank you very much.
And so now we vote again. And could you read out what we're voting, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think there's been a point of point of clarification requested by Councillor Baxter. We are indeed talking about 7 recommendations. There were 6 published and 1/7, which was an amendment which was accepted. So we are voting on the 7.
Madam Chairman, point of order. Is there not a speaker in the box?
Madam Chairman, just on that point of order, Councillor Moran hasn't indicated whether she has a point of order or a point of personal explanation. The debate is now concluded and the vote taken. So unless it's one of those two, Councillor Moran doesn't have the right to speak. If Councillor Moran can just indicate whether she has one of those 2 issues, then of course she may speak. So Councillor Moran has just asked in the chat function if she can speak after the vote. Councillor Moran, that is contrary to the rules of debate, unfortunately, unless you have a point of order or a point of personal explanation. Then, Madam Chairman, I think Councillor Dilks has a clarification, but again, unless it's something that he is constitutionally able to point to, then I'm afraid that similarly isn't permitted. Madam Chairman, yes, as you've just reminded me, there is the members' open questions on the agenda today, so there is an opportunity for members to ask questions at that point. Right, so I think then we're ready for the vote, please, Madam Chair.
So we're doing, I've lost my piece of paper. Here we go. So so it's against or abstain in the chat box. Madam
Chairman, I think everybody's voted who wanted to vote. Therefore, if we've got 47 members still on the call, I know Councillor Selby has said that he's abstained because he's missed the debate, and Councillor Dilk. So we've got 2 abstentions, and that would make 45 for.
Chairman, Chief Executive, we've actually got 46 members now. Councillor Bob Adams had to leave.
Okay, thank you, Shelley, for that. So that's 44 for. So the six motions and 1 amendment is passed.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Right, so thank you. That is carried. And now we go on to updates from the Leader of the Council.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So obviously we are now on agenda item 5A, which is the meetings of the Cabinet. The minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 13th of October 2020 and were approved by the Cabinet on the 3rd of November 2020 are provided for councillors' information, and they are just simply for noting. And so that would be 5A, Madam Chairman. And then on agenda item 5B, the decisions made under the urgency provisions, there is just one, which is obviously in respect to St Martin's Park. And obviously that is also just for noting as well. And if I can just finish, Madam Chairman, by saying I absolutely agree with Councillor Judy Smith's comment. Is it not time for a short break? Thank you.
Thank you, Callum. Thank you. On the starting block, so here we go for a short break. How long short? 5 minutes.
Don't fall down this time, Madam Chairman.
We'll do 5 minutes because we've got a lot to get through.
Don't fall down.
Where's my thingy? Right, is that? Yeah. Hello there. We've just had our short break, and I'd like to see if we can now get on with items number 6, which is members' open question. And I had Councillor Moran said that she tried to ask a question and it was just running out of time. So I was going to give her the opportunity to start this session if she would like to take up that opportunity. So if you could just let me know, please.
That's all right, thank you. It was merely an offer for the working group that I wanted to put out there, but I have emailed Robert Reid in the break. So thank you. But
and next we had Councillor Kelly, please. Is it Anna Kelly? Have I got that right? Anna Kelly?
Sorry, some confusion there. I don't know how that's happened. Thank you.
I think you asked if you could speak before the meeting, so here's your opportunity.
Ah, this is the questions for Callum.
Oh.
Not just for me, Councillor Kelly.
Oh, well, I just felt you'd know the answers. You're the guy who knows it. It's just that when one day I was busy working in my garden and a member of my local ward wanted to speak to me and said she wanted to make a statement to our meeting. Unfortunately, she can't do that until January the 28th. So she asked if I would be able to ask questions on her behalf. And she wanted to know if the statue of Lady Thatcher is owned by South Kesteven Council, and is it the SK Council that's collecting the contributions towards the unveiling event? And if, despite national coverage, have you now managed to get all the funds for that unveiling? Or, you know, I'm not sure which organisation is collecting that money. And are all the contributions there, or are we still underwriting it?
So in terms of the statue, the statue is currently under the ownership still of the Public Loans Memorial Board, and that obviously will transfer as a deed of gift to South Kesteven District Council. In terms of the funding, I've received extensive communications from various individuals and organisations wishing to contribute towards the unveiling event. At the present time, we are currently finalising the details with regards to where that money is going to go. As I said at the Cabinet meeting, my plan would be is that the Council obviously has agreed to underwrite this. Now, let's also just be cautious. It has also been called in, and it will be going to a meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee at the beginning of January. I'm fully expecting this event to be fully paid by the private sector, but not only that, I expect it to do three things, which is to pay for the unveiling event, which will be done obviously post-COVID. It will then also create a reserve, which will then deal with the ongoing maintenance and cleaning of the statue, but also the ability to then make a contribution to Grantham Museum with regards to the exhibition of Lady Thatcher within that building.
Right, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so could I have Councillor John Dawson, please?
Yes, thank you. Could the leader inform us of what progress is happening on St Martin's Park development, please?
Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Well, obviously, as members will be aware, we purchased the Cummins factory site back in March 2019 with the ambition to see the regeneration of that site. I am pleased to inform you all now that the collaboration agreement between ourselves as the Council and Burley Estates has now been signed. The outline planning application has now been validated and is on the portal for members and members of the public to view under reference S202056. And also just to confirm that Morris Homes will be delivering the residential development, Inspired Living will be leading on the retirement development, and Burley Land Limited will be delivering the commercial and mixed use parts of the site. Heads of terms with all the three parties have now been agreed, and in the new year the sales contracts will start to be drafted by legal teams. And hopefully at some point next year we will also start to see the demolition of the existing buildings on that site, excluding the 1904 building, which we hope to turn into further commercial space. And that demolition is currently being discussed with our partners at Burley. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Dilks.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, just trying to get the camera going. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yep. I've received my SK today for all residents of the area of South Kestervan, and it's been described to me by a neighbour as more like a Conservative election manifesto than a proper newsletter or newspaper. There's headlines like housing that meets the needs of all residents and high performing council, and frankly everything in the garden is rosy. But there's no mention either of the Riverside report nor of the housing compliance report. I would have thought that was a good opportunity to have let residents know what's going on with that. Why were they not mentioned? Thank you. That's to the leader, obviously.
Thank you, Councillor Dilks. Well, obviously, as members will be aware that the highlight themes that Councillor Dilks has just mentioned are the key aims within our corporate plan. There is a specific residents newsletter called Skyline, which goes to the tenants of the people that occupy our council homes, and obviously the Riverside report and also the housing audit will also be mentioned within the next edition of Skyline, which will obviously be published in the new year, and obviously we'll make sure that that is shared with all members as well.
Thank you for that.
Okay, Councillor Sue Sandel.
Oh, thank you. This is just, actually, it's a thank you to Kellam. I would like to just to say that my 5-year-old grandson was ill, and this morning he was told he'd possibly got COVID. Now, they live in Stamford, and my daughter has already been to St Martin's Park to have him tested. So I'd just like to thank SK for making it so easy and possible for people to get there quickly to get things sorted out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sandel. Obviously, I'll pass on your thanks to the teams that were involved in making the site available for the testing. Thank you.
Councillor Wheeler.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chairman. Question to Councillor Cook, please. The government has today made the decision to change the tiers across much of the country, and they've divided many counties up into different tiers. For example, Peterborough has now been separated from the rest of Cambridgeshire. However, they have completely overlooked the huge range of COVID rates across Lincolnshire, which is the second largest county in the UK, and choosing to keep us all in Tier 3, despite the fact that the number of cases in Stamford is well below average and certainly comparable with neighbouring Rutland, which remains in Tier 2. This is obviously a devastating time for our local businesses, many of whom are struggling to survive. So I've got two questions really. What more can we do to support them through this time and ensure that they remain viable in the difficult months ahead? And also, secondly, can you tell me what our MPs and you are doing to address this oversight from the government to ensure that we get fairer treatment in 2 weeks' time?
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. In terms of what we can do to support our residents and businesses, obviously we do have certain support packages that are available, including discretionary grants for businesses. I've been in touch with numerous businesses across, particularly the south of the district, particularly in hospitality, over the last few weeks, and I'll continue to do that and also raise it with Business Lincolnshire. In terms of the work that our members of Parliament do, obviously within the south of the county, both Gareth Davies, the MP for Grantham and Stamford, and John Hayes, Sir John for South Holland and the Deepings, have been working closely with government ministers to try and get us removed from the Lincolnshire pot. Obviously, I remain disappointed, and I know Councillor Hill from the County Council has also put out the same statement. Obviously, it is not within our gift to move us out. I would like to see South Kesteven dealt with on a different basis, as I know Gary Porter over in South Holland would also. Obviously, we can still make representations to ministers, which I will do, and obviously with this result, I'll speak to both Martin and Gary to make further representations to the departments in relation to our current tiering system. I think the only thing I can say is that I know there will be no appetite to move into a more localised basis in the district, so we'll never be able to split off Stamford completely. But I am aware that there is issues at Peterborough Hospital, particularly with bed capacity and another ward being turned into a COVID ward. So they do have extreme pressures in hospitals at the present time. But we will continue to make representations to government to try and get us removed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a slight technical hitch here. It's now 4 o'clock, and really we need an extension, perhaps about 35 minutes. So I'm putting it out. Do we call for a 35-minute extension?
I'd happily second that, Madam Chairman, and understand it will probably be more questions to me.
So, so do we go to the vote? Right. So we need to go to a vote as to whether we approve it or we don't. So we're either for it or we're against it, but just against or abstain.
Madam Chairman, can we just confirm, is that 35 minutes or 30 minutes? 35 minutes. So it's 4 o'clock now. So it's to go to 4:35. Thank you. So if we can go, if you're against or abstaining from the vote, then please from the amendment, from the motion, then please put it in the chat box. Thank you. Sorry, we should have also noted that Rosemary Trollope-Bellew, Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew actually seconded your motion, Madam Chairman. She put it in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you, Rosemary.
You're doing the right things.
Madam Chairman, I don't think anybody is against or abstaining for that motion, so therefore it's carried.
Thank you. So we'll swiftly move on. Councillor Mike Exton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's a question to the leader. I can't get my camera on, but it's regarding the ambulance station, well, former ambulance station, former fire station. Could I have an update on the progress of the work going on, please?
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Exton. Well, obviously, members will probably be aware that Lindum construction commenced works on the 5th of October earlier this year. The construction phase is going to run for a period of up to 16 weeks. We're currently in construction week 9 of 16 and are on target to complete on the 25th of January. I drove past the building this morning and I think it's really looking very smart compared to what it did used to look like. The external walls have now been sandblasted, the new windows are going in, it's really tidying up that area. The letting agents are now marketing the building and we've already received interest, and we're expecting viewings to take place in the new year, and hopefully it'll be let out very soon to a small local business, which is brilliant, bringing a building back into use.
Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Thank you.
Councillor Judy Stevens.
Yes, hello, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, right. I've had some very encouraging comments recently about the work of the big the green team that have been out and about locally, and I just wanted to be assured that that was going to continue into the new year. And it's a question for Dr. Mosley.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Stevens. So yes, the big clean are out and about every day of the week. Obviously, I think they're having a bit of a holiday, or some of them are on leave over Christmas. Obviously, we have to be a bit careful about if we have to move into special measures, and because the big clean have been very, very helpful in terms of backfilling loader work through the COVID crisis. But the plan is to keep them moving, and I'm hopeful that this is an initiative which we keep going for many years to come.
Thank you
Could
very
I
much.
have,
That's great.
sorry,
Thanks.
could I have Councillor Helen Crawford?
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a question for Councillor Rosemary Trollope-Bellew. It's with regards to the Corn Exchange in Bourne. I see that we have scaffolding up outside at the moment, down on Abbey Road. When do you expect the refurbishment and the moving of the registry offices to be completed? And could you also please pass on my thanks to those who have completed for the work that's already taken place, because it is looking good. About time too, may I say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Sorry, I'm also having problems with my connection here. as you say, there's been quite a lot of work going on at the Corn Exchange at Bourne, and the registry office. We finally got the go-ahead to be able to move that within the building. It's going to be by the side of the library, so that Lincolnshire County Council will all be in one area of the Corn Exchange, and it will also have its own entrance and exit to make things safe, and the office will also be larger and a larger waiting area. And the old offices that the registrar did have will then be able to be used as dressing rooms for performers, where previously they've had to use the room nearest the kitchen, which wasn't always very appropriate, so a bit of luxury there. And obviously, as you know, the stage has all been repainted, new curtains, light. The hall definitely has had a good lick of paint, and we're now working on the bar area. So there's quite a lot of work been going on there, and it's hoped to be completed by the end of this financial year. And I personally, like you, would like to thank Ian Bland and his team, because without them, I don't think we would have got half of what has happened there. And I think you'll agree with me that they do deserve a big round of applause. And I think we're all looking forward to going in there and seeing exactly what they have done. So thank you very much for being my support in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We may be going to the pantomime. Right, Councillor Ray Washington, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Chairman. I'm just going to get my camera on. There you are. Thank you, Madam Chairman. The question is to the Leader of the Council, Councillor Cook. It's regarding the independent report on Riverside by Julie Pickin. I note in the full report that I am mentioned in a positive way, I'm pleased to say, and as is Councillor Jackie Smith. But I'm a bit puzzled on why we as ward councillors were not interviewed and our evidence gathered for this report. Do you not think that the writer of this report, Julie Pickin, should actually interview us?
Thank you, Councillor Wotton. Obviously, I wasn't part of the decision making with regards to how Julie Pickin did her investigation, as it was independent. The only thing I can say is I'd be very happy to send a letter of communication to Julie to ask if she would consider adding an addendum to that report of an interview with both yourself as a local ward member and also Councillor Jackie Smith, just so you can also potentially raise your issues. That's not to say that will happen, because obviously it is her independent report and it is vital it is independent, but I will raise the point about you being local ward members.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ashley Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask you and the Leader to please pass on from, I'm sure, all the councillors, our gratitude and our best wishes for a happy Christmas, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all the staff and all the staff of the council and of the wholly owned companies. It's been a really difficult year for everybody, and particularly for council staff, I think. So that's the first part of the question, and I would be very grateful if you could do that on all our behalves. And the second part is whether or not the Leader would consider a small investment, if he hasn't already, in a resource which could be of benefit to all staff, because a box of chocolates wouldn't go very far among the 200 or 300 staff that we have. But if there was some way that we could recognise the contribution of the staff during this COVID year in a way that is both useful and tangible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, we will thank all of the staff, and one of the ways we are going to give a small token, it is a small token, is we will be giving an additional half a day's holiday either on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve to all of our members of staff at the council.
Okay, Councillor Ian Selby.
Very much, Madam Chairman. I hope you'll just allow me two quick thank yous to start with, please. Thank you very much for all the good work that's been done to set up the COVID vaccination centre at the Mayor's Leisure Centre. My father's been this afternoon for a vaccination. He tells me it works very, very well, and I'm delighted. Just need to get my mother vaccinated now. So yeah, big thank you for that. Another thank you as well to Chris Stratford and his housing team, Madam Chairman, for all the good work that they've recently done in my ward with regarding housing casework. Also very much appreciated. Thank you. A question is to Callum, please. Recently reported in the national press on the 4th of December, I quote, 7 years after Margaret Thatcher's death, it remains a divisive character. There is now going to be a referendum in her hometown of Grantham to decide whether there will be a statue erected of her. Is this true, or is this just, or should we never believe everything that we read in the national newspapers? And also, who's going to be unveiling the statue? Will it be Carol Thatcher, or can I make a suggestion that there is a local draw made for local fans of the late Margaret Thatcher, for their names to go in the hat to unveil the statue, or at least for them to be invited to the unveiling? And this is also as a suggestion to you, Callum, if I may. There's a fabulous painting that's been done by Terry Shelburne, and it's in Lincoln in the archives that we've got there. And I think it'd be wonderful for the people that do like Margaret Thatcher. Personally, I'm not a fan, but for the people that do like, I just think it would be wonderful to have that painting put on display for the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Selby. So in terms of the referendum you mentioned, I think this was actually, it was misquoted. So when we had the debate at Cabinet, and I know you said in the meeting, could we have a referendum? I think the press journalist then assumed we were having a referendum because you mentioned it. So it's certainly not going to have a referendum. There will be and I think this is how I quoted it at the Cabinet meeting, there will be a person of significant national interest coming to unveil the statue. Now, obviously, for security reasons, I cannot say anything further at the present time. Obviously, the event details and the final running order of it is still very much in work in progress, and obviously there will be ample opportunity for local people to also be involved in that event and attend the unveiling as well. And then with reference to your the painting, I didn't know about that, and I can certainly make inquiries about it.
Yes, it's a fabulous painting, Callum. It really should be on display for the event. Also, do you like the Christmas lights? I've got better lights than Belton House in it, you know.
Very festive, Ian.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Paul Wood.
Yeah, thank you again, Madam Chairman. Question for Dr. Peter Mosley about the food waste scheme. I think the food waste scheme has been going a bit of a while now. I think it's been very successful. I wondered any plans to expand it, and from a personal point of view, I was part of the food waste trial in Long Bennington, but I've recently moved home, and I think I'm not applicable for it now in another part of Long Bennington. But I think it's been very successful, and I just wondered what the future is for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Yeah, I mean, the food waste trial has been successful, and it will continue on the trial rounds that we've got for the next couple of years. We're expecting that DEFRA will issue a paper on the future of waste, but that's obviously been delayed because of the COVID issue. And there are many things within that, one of which is we believe that we will be compelled to collect food waste from every house in the district in 2023 or beyond. But of course, the issue of food waste, I'd love to be able to roll it out, but it all comes down to money, and it is an incredibly expensive thing to do. However, you know, the Cabinet know that they have that I am determined to find a way to try and do this sooner rather than later if I can. But we all have to recognise some of the you know, some of the financial issues that we've got to face in the next in the next few years as a consequence of the last year. So I'm really pleased that you enjoyed the food waste trial. It's worth pointing out that collection of food waste does in fact increase the recycling recycling rate by over 10% in that one thing. So, you know, whilst we see recycling rates across the country fall, just separating out food waste could bring us back to plus 50% recycling. And I think that's why the focus is from DEFRA, but we're continuing to work with our partners to see if we can work a solution. And I would call on, you know, I'm grateful to the support of every councillor who thinks this is a great initiative, and I am doing my best to see if we can bring it sooner.
Right, thank you. And I've got Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, of course, the joy of these sessions is I can actually ask a question myself. I would like to make a question and sort of a statement to Councillor Paul Wood as the leader of the Independents, and really I hope he will join me in firstly thanking all of our staff for the work that they have done over the last year. I think it is safe to say that they have put in an immense amount of hard work and dedication in dealing with the coronavirus crisis. You know, we've been under extreme pressures this year for our Chief Executive to join the authority 2 weeks before we went into national lockdown. You know, we've had staff and volunteers helping the most vulnerable residents across the district, and I'm sure that Paul Wood would join me in thanking all of our staff and volunteers across the district for what they have done this year throughout the extremely challenging time.
Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Councillor Paul Wood. Yeah, I would echo Councillor Cook's comments. Well, yeah, I think SKDC have done the staff have done a remarkable job in these difficult times, and I totally agree with what Councillor Cook has said.
Right, thank you. Right, item 7, notices of motion given under Article 49 of the Council's Constitution, and then looking at section or item 8 and item 9, they have been withdrawn, and because they have been withdrawn, number 10 is no longer an ongoing issue, and number 11, that is all. We've got to receive those. Is that right? The meetings of the Cabinet.
Madam Chairman, so obviously agenda items 7A and 7B have been withdrawn because of Councillor Morgan's not present, and obviously as we've already dealt with the meetings of Cabinet, if there's nobody wishing to go into exempt session, I think we've concluded business.
Yes, and can we put in our diaries that there's a council meeting on Thursday the 28th of January 2021, and it's got here 1 o'clock. And it's got Thursday the 28th, and your deadline for notices have to be on to the losing my words now, to the council offices by the 15th of January 2021. And I'd just like to say thank you very much indeed for helping and guiding me and getting us steered in some direction. And I've had a big thank you from and to all of us and to all the staff as well as the councillors, which is a lovely thought to think of. And I just hope that everyone has as good a Christmas as you can under the circumstances. I did try to lighten it up and put my sparkly jumper on, but there we go. A good night and God bless to you all.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas,
everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you, Chairman.